Good evening, squad. It is time for 428. Smoke something, or don't. I'm not your dad. We are in, I believe, the last chapter area of this game. So, it'd be weird if you were my dad. Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? I don't know, stranger things have happened. What? We're in the last 2 hours of the game. Game time 2 hours, not 2 hours of the game. We have 3 protagonists left because the other 2 were done with the game and rage quit. They were done with their storylines. They're not important anymore. Actually, I think one of them is unconscious. It's fine. It's all fine. Let's scramble some eggs. Eggs. Yeah, I don't foresee us actually finishing through the whole chapter tonight. But I don't know if it'll take us 2 or 3 streams to finish this. Whoa, Achi's just immediately on the keep out. Neat. Alright, Detective? You're on the scene. Your phone is ringing, I think. Kano's cell phone rang. He saw Kuze's name on the display. Kano speaking. Oh, right, yeah, he's in Endo Electronics with everybody else. Stuff happened. I hope you've been keeping up, because I've forgotten most of it. It's been a week since we've played. What the hell are you doing? The director's voice was shrill with irritation. The Mary Cat had resubscribed for 3 months in a row. Thank you very much, Mary Cat. What's the situation with Maria Osawa? I have her in custody, sir. We need to get her into quarantine immediately. I'll send a counter-MBC terrorism unit to pick her up. Fun fact, it's a public safety mobile investigation unit belonging to the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department's Public Security Bureau. The acronym NBC is not a TV station, but rather refers to nuclear, biological, and chemical threats. The unit not only gathers information and investigates terror incidents that made use of these means, but also deploys relief and safety restoration measures. I can be funny too, game. What's your location? Sir, the situation is a little complicated at the moment, Kano replied. He and Stanley made eye contact. Kano gave him a knowing nod. He knew what he needed to do here. He briefly informed Kuze of the plan to take Maria to the laboratory. Right, we're going to save her, but was careful not to mention Alphard. Please, sir, Kano said, bowing reflexively to the phone. Let me handle this. Absolutely not, Kuze exclaimed. There's no way I can allow that. Maria Osawa needs to go into quarantine right now. Fun fact, quarantine is not that fun. It's the act of placing infectees in isolation, such as in medical treatment facility, in order to prevent the spread of infection. For viruses capable of airborne transmission, an airborne infection isolation room, air, is sometimes used, which employs negative air pressure to ensure that air from within the room does not leak outside. A true Japanese person can hear a bow through the phone. I've seen it in a lot of shows, and I feel like that's maybe true. Sir, please, just give me a little more time. Giving her the antiviral is the only way we can save her. If we put her in quarantine, it'll be a death sentence. Kuze let out a growl of frustration. Kano, that isn't your decision to make. Kano had run out of arguments. It was clear that Kuze's only concern was stopping the spread of the virus. Director Kuze, are you just going to let Maria Osawa die? We can't put the lives of everyone in Shibuya at risk in order to save a single person. I know that, sir. That's why I'm asking you to please let me go to that laboratory. And if it looks like we're not going to be able to hack the password, then at that point a quarantine can... Kano! Kuze snapped. E-Block had resubscribed for 7 months. 7 months? 428 is divisible by 7. Is it? Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Nope. I wondered. It seems like it should be. Yeah, because of the 4, the 2, and the 28. Math. I'm giving you an order, and I'm not accepting that order. Listen, Kuze said. How many years have you been a cop? What do you mean by that, sir? Kuze didn't reply. Is this an order from up top? What's going on here, sir? Please, I need some kind of explanation. Stop it, Kuze said. You sound like a child. This is dereliction of duty. Call me a child if you want, but I'm not following an order that I know isn't right. Then he hung up the phone. Kano punched the end call button with his thumb. Oh, that sounds way more dramatic than what I said. From an objective standpoint, maybe Kuze was right. They needed to think about more than just Maria. If the Ua virus spread through Shibuya, it would be a nightmare of epic proportions. Kano understood that perfectly clearly, but still, he looked down at Maria's face as she lay collapsed on the floor. This girl was still alive, and Kano couldn't stand idly by and let a living, breathing person die. Consequences be damned. He wasn't going to be the one to weigh the worth of someone's life. As he stood, still clutching his cell phone, Stanley gently set a hand on his shoulder. You did fine, he said quietly. Alfred is in possession of the Ua virus. The people of Shibuya are already in danger. He may have already released the virus in the city. If he hasn't, he may do so at any time. Right now, what we need to do is get that antiviral and arrest Alfred. You made the right choice here. Thanks, Stanley. I appreciate hearing that. Stanley gave Kano a slap on the back. He was right. At this point, they needed to focus on the things they could still accomplish. So, guys, Achi stepped forward. Who's going to take Hitomi's sister and Cannon to the lab? Maria was in no condition to walk, so they were going to have to take a car, which meant they needed a driver. I only have a motorcycle license, Achi said, and I don't know where the lab is anyhow. Oh man, is Taxi Friend going to show back up? I should go with Maria alone. Cannon looked over at the others. There's no way of knowing for sure when she might become contagious. We shouldn't needlessly risk exposing more people to infection. She knelt down to gather Maria in her arms. In that case, I should drive. Kano whirled around at the sound of a new voice behind him, and it was... Taxi Man? Taxi Man. Be Taxi Man. Nope, you're Cane Man. Tatano was standing in the doorway. See, this is what happens when you don't arrest somebody. Like, we just left him incapacitated on a rooftop. You! Achi's face went red with rage. Well, there's our jump point for Achi. I want a Taxi Man. Alright then. Well, let's go see what Minorikawa is up to. Oh, right, they were trying to run for a deadline? Something was happening. Hang in there, Chiaki. Just keep it together. Minorikawa rushed to her side and offered her a hand. Surely it hardly matters at this point. You're not going to make it on time regardless, Katayama said coldly. Ah, yes. This asshat. And in any case, if 4-star General Gossip doesn't get released, it's Mr. Toyama who's going to be in trouble, not you. I dare say the world would be better off with 1 third-rate gossip rag less anyway. Shut your mouth, Chiaki snapped. If the gossip doesn't come out, I am going to be in trouble. An article I've written is supposed to be in the next month's issue. It's a piece I've worked my very hardest on, to the very end. A piece Mr. Mino saw fit to put in print. And so if that goes away, if all of that goes away, yeah, I'll be in trouble all right. Check out my cool fake blood splatter. Chiaki's legs wobbled as she struggled to get back to her feet. Chiaki, Katayama said, your zeal is a marvelous thing, worthy of admiration even. But when it comes to work, results are all that matters. I'm sad to have put it that way, but I must be honest, it's just common decency. Katayama glanced at his pocket watch. You have 57 minutes and 10 seconds remaining. At this rate, you won't even make it to the interview venue before your time's up. Frankly, I don't think even a further extension of your deadline would make any difference in the end. Damn it! Minorikawa ground his teeth. He wondered if he should just leave Chiaki here and go interview SOS by himself. He could expand the article on SOS, then work in a small part of Chiaki's interview piece into at least fill the layout. Right now, the single most important thing was getting the magazine out the door for Toyama's sake. But if he did cut most of Chiaki's copy after all she'd done, he might wind up totally killing her passion for being a writer. I have to stop waffling. Professionals don't let their personal feelings dictate their decisions. I can help Chiaki work through her emotional struggles later. Chiaki, that's enough. The young woman got to her feet, staggering as she began to climb the stairs. I'm not giving up, she said under her breath. I can't give up now. Though obviously in pain, she struggled to keep her legs moving. Damn, I can't do it. Look how hard she's fighting to stay in the game. I can't tell her I don't need her article now. Releasing the next issue of the Gossip wasn't just going to save Toyama. It would save Chiaki as well. Minorikawa couldn't abandon either one of them. Which left him with a hell of a dilemma. He needed to make a decision. If he didn't stop wavering soon, they'd be out of time. But try as he might, he couldn't come up with a plan. Then he heard a familiar voice from behind him. Taxi man? If you're wondering what path to take, allow my taxi to be your guide. The true hero of this story. Minorikawa spun around to see Kimizuka standing there. Where to, sir? The driver asked. Despite his polite demeanor, his pride was obvious. Mr. Kimizuka, I appreciate the thought, but with this traffic... Traffic? I see nothing of the sort. Okay, sure, but... Minorikawa was well aware of Kimizuki's capabilities, but the prospect of cutting through the chaos that currently filled the streets was more than a little daunting. When you know this town as well as I do, there's nowhere you can't go. Alright, what other choice do I have? Guess I gotta trust you. This will be my last request of the day. Minorikawa pointed down the street. I mean, I know we have to go to Inferno, but I do wonder if there's another choice we're supposed to make. We're supposed to go to Inferno. We're gonna go into Inferno. Take us to Inferno in Yura Harajuku. Inferno in Yura Harajuku. The bar? Kimizuka quirked an eyebrow. Yes, something the matter? No, nothing at all. Hurry up and get in. Yeah, taxi man! As soon as Minorikawa and the others had climbed into the cab, Kimizuka tore off through Shibuya's network of narrow side streets. The passengers in the back seat jostled roughly back and forth to the sound of screeching tires. This is altogether far too excessive, Katayama murmured, wincing as his head bounced repeatedly against the window. To think we allow such inconsiderate driving here in this country. Chiaki, meanwhile, had opened her laptop and was somehow working furiously to finish her coffee. The sound of her fingers clicking across the keys echoed within the vehicle. How's it going, Chiaki? Minorikawa asked. Just a little more. Her eyes were glued to her monitor, her face all seriousness. Vroom. Hey, Kavina, thanks for the cheer. Kimizuki glanced over at Minorikawa. If I may ask, sir, what business do you have at this bar? Just a little interview. I hear a local gang called SOS uses the place as their big hangout. You're interviewing SOS? Sir, I feel it might be best not to get too involved with that lot. There was something about the driver's warning that seemed a little off. Do your taxi driver connections tell you what SOS is up to? Minorikawa asked. Originally, they were something of a vigilante corps, in the name of keeping the neighborhood clean and safe. But lately I hear nothing but bad things about them. Those loan sharks had said something very similar. Minorikawa reminded himself that he'd better be on his guard. Katayama chimed in. And just how do you plan to go about interviewing a gang like this? That's nothing for you to worry about. I have a plan. Oh ho! And just what exactly is this plan? It's a secret. Himitsu? Katayama gave him a derisive grin. Clearly he wasn't impressed. Minarakawa turned to look at Chiaki. She appeared too engrossed in her coffee to even hear the conversation. I realize this is for work, Kimizuki said worriedly. But do you really need to take such risks? Yes, I do. Minarakawa thought back to that look on Toyama's face. That look when he'd finally regained his confidence. He couldn't let Heaven Publishing go under. Toyama provided the canvas on which Minarakawa shared his art with the world. Thinking about it now, Minarakawa realized he'd always been chasing Toyama's shadow, though it was galling to admit that man had been the ideal Minarakawa strove to live up to. That was why he'd hated seeing Toyama reduced to such a pathetic state. He wanted Toyama to remain indomitable, to keep busting down any and all obstacles in his own peculiar way. Still, Minarakawa wasn't about to voice these feelings aloud. That would be embarrassing. He felt more than a little embarrassed to be taking it all so personally. When you take on a job, you give it 100% every time. That's what makes you a professional, he said. Wouldn't you agree? I do indeed, Katayama chimed in. But you'll have to demonstrate that 100% in the limited time you have left, which, by the way, is 51 minutes and 30 seconds. And I will not budge in the slightest on that submission deadline. Please do keep that in mind. The man took another look at his watch. I've got half a mind to break that thing, Minarakawa told him. Breaking my watch will not stop time. Minarakawa shot him a furious glare, but Katayama's composure was unwavering. The guy was unflappable, and the only way Minarakawa was going to be able to put him in his place was to meet this damn deadline. Easier said than done, though. He'd want to use 30 of the 51 minutes he still had to write this article. That only left him 20 or so to get the material. Kimizuka suddenly slammed on the brakes, and the cab skidded to a halt. Minarakawa stared through the windshield in shock and saw a smallish, boxy minivan weaving erratically along the road. Whoa, look out, that thing's headed our way. Oh no. Don't worry, sir, the driver replied. Just leave this to me. Keeping his cool, Kimizuka dexterously steered them clear of the oncoming vehicle. That's right, 'cause he's Taxi Man. Do-do-do, as the minivan sped past, an eerily cold breeze wafted over the taxi. Fun fact, minivan, the vehicle is being driven by members of the Wandering Angels Theater Troupe. They are on their way to return the dry ice machine they used in their performance to Endo Electronics. The machine is malfunctioning, continually spitting out white plumes of carbon dioxide. The troupe members inside the van are beginning to suffer from oxygen deprivation and are driving around Shibuya in a daze. Will they be able to make it to Endo Electronics in the end? Who knows? Maybe we'll find out in another fun fact. What the heck was that? Minarakawa asked. I'm not sure, Kimizuka said. Let's hurry on our way. Nimbly manipulating the gear stick, he stomped on the gas once more. Taxi Man. Here we are, sir. I would have expected maybe a logo with some fire. It pulled up outside of a dilapidated old pool hall. You're a lifesaver. Minarakawa clapped a hand on Kimizuka's shoulder. Just be sure to be careful, sir. Minarakawa nodded. Huh? What? Chiaki asked, looking up. What are we being careful about? Nothing, Minarakawa said. You just wait here in the car. You've still got that copy to finish up, yeah? Well, yes. Alright then. Chiaki frowned, but resumed her typing. And you wait here too, Minarakawa said to Katayama. But of course, that goes without saying. Incidentally, you have 49 minutes and 6 seconds remaining. Minarakawa did some quick mental math. With the half hour he'd already set aside, that left him 19 minutes. However dangerous SOS might be, he couldn't afford to hesitate for even a single second. Bracing himself, he stopped out of the taxi and headed for the pool hall. Hey Void, hey Drazoth. Phew! Minarakawa took a deep breath as he approached the grimy door. Here goes! He drew his leg back and gave the door a hearty kick. And then nothing bad happened. Everything worked out. The mob of young men inside the bar turned as one at the sound of the door crashing open. Who the hell are you? Several of them started toward him, belligerently. Just calm down and hear me out, he said. I've come to interview you. Interview us? What the hell for? These were hot-headed punks, all right. They seemed to be itching for a confrontation. Minarakawa felt like a punch might come flying his way at any moment. Another voice called out from further back. Hold up, guys. It was a young man seated in the far back corner of the bar. His air of authority marked him as the gang's leader. That must be Susumu, then, Minarakawa thought. When you say interview, do you mean for TV? Or like a magazine? Mind telling us who you are? The name's Minarakawa. I'm a freelance journalist. I'm doing a magazine piece about young people in Shibuya. All I'm asking is just for you guys to answer a few questions. Fun fact. Answer. Oh hey, remember that science quiz we had in a completely different fun fact? Well, here's the answer to that. It's methane. Methane has been tapped as a potential new energy source to replace fossil fuels or atomic power, but there are concerns about its tendency to exacerbate the global warming process. It's extremely flammable. The methane produced by food waste has been known to cause garbage trucks to catch fire. That quiz was a while ago. Huh? Susumu sounded less than enthused. Just 5 minutes, Minarakawa said. What do you say? Nah, I'm not in the best of moods right now. Go on, get out of here. Right, Minarakawa thought. He's going to make things difficult. But he hadn't expected these troublemakers to just up and accept an offer to appear in print. Now was when the real battle would begin. Guess I'll just have to write my piece without your help then. Susumu took the bait and shot him a look. Right about what exactly? Your little warehouse raids. Warehouse raids? Susumu raised an eyebrow. What are you talking about? Really now? You're gonna tell me you don't know your boys are dealing in stolen goods? SOS doesn't steal, man. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. Oh yeah? Why don't you ask those two over there? He spotted the two fellows he'd seen arguing earlier at the scene of the explosion. Now he pointed them out. Their faces betrayed their alarm. Susumu glared at them. Is this true? They averted their eyes and said nothing. I asked you a question. Have you been stealing stuff? Hey, Forever Backwards. Thank you for that 18-month resub. After a long moment of surly hesitation, both young men nodded. You idiots! Susumu marched up to the two and without warning decked them both. How dare you sully the SOS name? As the two gang members cowered, he continued to punch them repeatedly. Okay, enough with the beatdown. Minarakawa stepped up to intervene. Let's get down to business here. I won't reveal anything about the warehouse raids. In exchange, you give me my interview. How's that? Not a bad deal, I'd say. But Susumu ignored him, continuing his pummeling of the pair. Whoa, hey. Nobody's gonna play nice with a guy who flies off the handle and beats on people, you know. What'd you just say? Well, look at yourself. You're clearly not the cream of the crop here, kid. At that, Susumu's fists finally fell still. The rowdy bar became completely silent. Say that one more time. I dare you. I'll put your ass in the ground. The gang leader's eyes were red with rage. Minarakawa snorted, unafraid. That's the exact sort of line I'd expect from a total wuss who's all bark and no bite. Shut your damn mouth. Get the hell out of here. Oh, this is hilarious. SOS top dog is such a yappy little puppy. Susumu snarled like an animal. You son of a bee. I'm gonna beat your ass. Mr. Mino, I'm all finished. An ebullient voice sounded suddenly through the bar. Fun fact, ebullient. It's cheerful and full of energy. Originally, the term indicated a state of bubbling or boiling, so it's effectively a fancy way of describing someone as bubbly. Jackie, Minarakawa looked and saw that both she and Katayama had appeared in the doorway. I finished my copy. Could you please look it over for me? She thrust her laptop out proudly. Susumu stared in bewilderment. Who the hell are you? Oh, I was under the impression you SOS folks were being, interviewed. Jackie broke off haltingly. Yeah, you're right about that. One by one, gang members started to close in around her. Well, it's just, you look like you're really angry is all. Oh, do we now? That's because we're pretty damn angry. Good grief, Katayama groaned. It would seem that getting your interview is quite impossible. By the way, you only have another... You shut up, Norikawa snapped as Katayama peered at his watch. Just leave this to me. You two hurry up and get out of here. No way, Chiaki said. What? Why not? Because I want you to read my copy, Mr. Mino. She looked him right in the eye. Alright. Let's wrap up the interview. Why does Katayama make me think of Bakula? He's got that attitude, doesn't he? It's no time for an editing session. He had to wrap up the SOS interview and fast. Alright, Minorikawa said. I'll read it after I'm done with this. No way, Chiaki repeated. I'm not leaving you all by yourself in a place like this. She refused to budge. Enough of the chit-chat. Oh, this is gonna give me a bad end, isn't it? One of the gang members reached out to grab Chiaki's laptop. Knock it off, don't touch that. She struggled to resist. Leave the girl alone, you scumbags, Minorikawa barked. The young men in the bar stopped and turned. Susumu was quick to respond. Screw you, man. Who are you calling scumbags here? Any guy who raises a hand to a lady is a scumbag. If you're looking for a fight, you can fight me. Just get your hands off the girl. Minorikawa did his best to look unafraid as a couple dozen vicious gazes now turned back on him. Bring it on, Susumu said. Hey, someone go stand lookout front. He snapped his fingers sharply. Get him. At the signal, Susumu's men quickly closed in on Minorikawa. It was like being caught up in a tsunami. Oh, this is a bad end. He took a hard punch to the face and his vision went blurry. Before he could react, he was hit again, twice, thrice, with punches and kicks. The moment his first assailant paused, another joined the assault. 4 blows, 5 blows, 6. Minorikawa lost count somewhere around 30. Surprised he counted that high. A metallic taste filled his mouth and he could feel his consciousness fading. All the strength was being battered from his body. He couldn't even tell if he was standing on his feet or lying on his back. Then finally, he felt himself crumple to the floor. Yep, bad ending. Even then, the beating did not let up. As he wreathed helplessly, young men kicked him in the gut. Heard Chiaki yell. Eventually, Minorikawa forced himself to go limp. Finally, the kicking stopped. Aw crap, one of the thugs muttered, sounding panicky. Did we take this a bit too far? Mr. Mino! Chiaki rushed to Minorikawa's side, sobbing. Please, she cried out, answer me. He held his breath and said nothing. Mr. Mino! Tears streaked down her cheeks. She shook him desperately. Don't worry, he gasped out at last, holding up a hand to stave her off. She let out a yelp of surprise, staring at his battered face. He could feel blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. He turned his grisly visage on the street gang members as he painfully rose to his feet. Maybe we didn't get that ending? Oh, okay. Oh, ha 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 ha. Abruptly, Minorikawa broke into peals of mocking laughter. Mr. Mino? Chiaki stared at him aghast. Ha 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 ha. He only laughed the harder. It seems he took a few too many blows to the head. The poor thing. Katayama averted his gaze, unable to watch. Minorikawa shot out an accusing finger out at the crowd. Looks like I win this round. What? Susumu blinked, dumbstruck. Don't you get it? Minorikawa said thickly around his bruised tongue. What am I saying? You're a bunch of idiots. Now then, if you'll pardon me. Oh, I get it. Minorikawa was halfway to the exit when Katayama's exclamation rang out. You were planning all along to let these guys beat you up, huh? Minorikawa jerked to a halt, his shoulders trembling. You knew they'd turned down the interview, and so by letting yourself get beat up, you'd have something to put in an article, yeah? It's a bit bogus, maybe, but I guess it's one way to get material to fill your pages. Huh. Minorikawa broke out into a cold sweat. Shut up, you idiot. But Katayama continued with his oh-so-brilliant analysis. Oh, he's that dude who's explaining the joke to make it not funny anymore. You sure pulled a fast one on this gang here. Wonder what sort of headline your piece should have. The twilight of Shibuya's legendary street crew. Former vigilante squad, now a mere gang of common thugs. Something like that, maybe? Thanks, Katayama. You're gonna get us killed. Susumu stared daggers at Minorukawa. Go on. I dare you to write that up. Then we really will put your ass in the ground. He moved to block the path to the door, clutching a broken beer bottle in one hand. You moron, Minorukawa bellowed at Katayama. I was this close to pulling it off. Ah, well, that's a shame, isn't it? Katayama replied. Minorukawa rolled his eyes. Gee, you think? Susumu slowly advanced on the beer bottle at the ready. Incidentally, Katayama said, you have 40 minutes and 7 seconds left. Can I get the gang members to beat this one up? He's annoying. Good luck. Minorukawa hung his head. Was everything futile at this point? Fun fact, futile. It's not really fun because it means hopeless, pointless, ineffectual, not to be confused with feudal, which refers to the socio-political system of the Middle Ages involving lords and vassals and fiefdoms. Thanks for that cheer, E-Block. Katayama, so helpful. Alright, cool your jets. It's Taxi Man! I'd say that's quite enough. Come to save the day, Taxi Man. Susumu stopped and spun around. Kimuzuka had entered the bar. Oh man, is he someone's dad? Is he Susumu's dad? The taxi driver stared out sternly from behind his sunglasses. All the young men in the bar fell silent. Minorukawa and his companions exchanged glances. Oh man, you? Susumu's face twisted up in awkward embarrassment. Kimuzuka's tone was light and playful, but intimidating nevertheless. Whoa, hey now. That's no way to address your teacher. Okay, so not quite dad, but might as like sensei. Teacher, Minorukawa blurted in disbelief. Kimuzuka nodded. Yeah, until last year I used to be a teacher, but I got into a bit of a dispute with my school, so I moved on. These guys in here are all former students of mine. Sorry that they're such a bunch of good-for-nothings. Wow, Chiaki said. I'd have never guessed. I thought since I wasn't their teacher anymore, it wasn't my place to butt in, but I couldn't sit idly by and let one of my customers take a beating. Kimuzuka turned back to Susumu. This guy totally played you. Every last one of you. Susumu bit his lip in frustration. Still, it's hard to imagine anyone would want to take a beating from this many guys all at once, so it's hardly your fault for falling for it. Kimuzuka had switched gears from taxi driver to street smart mentor. You guys lost this one, he said, and for that, you need to give him his interview. No way, Susumu looked disgusted. Look here, kid, Kimuzuka said. Let yourself save some face and help the man out. And maybe you won't come off as a bunch of total idiots in his article. He flashed an amicable grin. Well, when you put it that way, fine, alright. Susumu blew out his breath in resignation. Susumu, you can't just let yourself cave like that. The remark had come from a particularly nasty-looking young fellow who slouched on the bar sofa. Minorukawa recognized him, the kid he'd encountered earlier that afternoon, wandering around with a wooden cudgel. You shut up, Kiryu, Susumu said. So what, you're just gonna let SOS make a mockery of itself? Kiryu demanded. The gang leader let out an annoyed growl, but said nothing. You still think you've got what it takes to run Shibuya? Shut up! I've already said I'll do it. Kiryu sneered sullenly at Susumu's outburst. Mr. Mino, Minorukawa just letting out a sigh of relief at being able to get his interview when Chiaki scurried back to him. Please, can you read my copy now? Her face showed a strange mixture of confidence and unease. All right, he said resignedly. Let me see it. The proofing deadline was drawing steadily nearer. Still, if the piece wasn't good enough, he'd have to make her rewrite it again. He wasn't going to compromise in quality. Bracing himself, Minorukawa stared at the monitor. Chiaki swallowed hard, so anxious that it was audible. Minorikawa gave the piece a fast once-over, then read it again more closely. When he was done, he closed his eyes, considering. Chiaki held her breath, waiting for his response. It's okay. She looked back at him blankly for a long moment. Really? It's really okay. Is it really, really okay? It really is really okay. Minorikawa watched in surprise as she broke down in tears. Oh, thank you so much. Chiaki bowed profusely. He gave her an affectionate little ruffle atop her head. She wiped at her face with her palms, scrubbing the tears away. So, I guess I never really told you what sort of articles I want to write and all? No, I don't think you have. Well, I mean, I want to write socially conscious exposés like you do, Mr. Mino. And so, to hear you say that an article I wrote is okay, that makes me really, happy, I guess. Or maybe moved? Her eyes were still bright with emotion. Well then, really. There was actually another writer who took inspiration from his work, and who strove to be like him. No one should strive to be like Minorikawa. He gets into bad situations. Minorikawa had never thought a day like this would come. It was a peculiar feeling. He'd always been the follower, chasing after interviews in order to be more like Toyama. It made him feel both bashful and proud that the skill and soul he'd honed might be passed on to the next generation. Right, I should be off. Kimazuka gave Minorikawa a slight nod. Minorikawa returned the gesture, but more deeply. Hey, Clenchy Swid. You really have been a tremendous help today. I'm not sure where I'd even be right now if you hadn't been there for me. Oh no, not at all. I was just driving a customer around to where he asked me to go. Oh, that's right. I still owe you a fare. Opening his wallet, Minorikawa saw he had only a 10,000 yen bill. Still, now was no time to be frugal. Keep the change, he said as he handed it over. But even as he said it, Kimazuka was already handing him some money back. Here, I insist. The driver had already counted out the exact change in advance. You really are a pro, huh? Minorikawa took the money and stuffed it into his pocket. We'll meet again, somewhere out there on the streets of Shibuya. Signed, Taxi Man. Kimazuka pointed his index finger at Minorikawa's face. Aw, I like Taxi Man. Minorikawa responded in kind. No tip? They don't generally do tipping in Japan. After that, the interview with SOS went off without a hitch. Now that the tension was diffused, these were just a bunch of ordinary young guys. The juxtaposition of their appearance and their behavior would make for an interesting piece. So, about what you said earlier, Susumu said, once Minorikawa had finished his questioning. About how I'm not the cream of the crop? Ah, yeah, that. I just said it to get you worked up. Don't worry about it. Well, let me just ask you what you really think then. How do you think I could be a better leader? I don't know. Not really the sort of guy who wants to stand at the top, you know. But I guess I can tell you two things that'll make things go more smoothly with you and your buddies. Susumu leaned in, listening intently. Forgiveness, and also trust. Minorikawa chewed over his own words. The events of the day replayed in the back of his mind. He'd forgiven Toyama for his faked suicide, and trusted that he'd regain his reporter's edge. He'd forgiven Chiaki for her bungled interviews, and trusted that she'd grow as a journalist. In the end, that's what it was that had helped him through. Forgiveness, followed by trust. Susumu grumbled softly. Forgiveness and trust, huh? Doesn't sound so easy. People gravitate towards somebody who can handle things when they get tough. With that, Minorikawa got to his feet. Now we've got all the articles we need covered. Chiaki rushed over to his side. Well, I guess we still need Mr. Toyama's piece. I just got off the phone with my office, Kadeyama said casually. It seems they've already received the data from him. Well, what? Guess he really can get the job done when he applies himself. Narakawa felt an inner surge of pride. Now then, he indicated Katayama. How much time do we have left? 30 minutes remaining, Katayama replied, eyeing his watch. 30 minutes, huh? Looks like we might make it after all. Chiaki, laptop. Right. With a beaming grin, Chiaki held out her computer. Minorikawa got ready to start typing. But then a young man barged into the bar. Fun fact, this young man, it's Achi Endo. He's come to ask the members of SOS to help with the planned operation down at the Scramble. Oh, nope. Gotta make sure I get the jump point that I can't access yet. The newcomer hurried over to where Susumu was sitting and promptly prostrated himself on the floor. Whatever this was about, it looked like a big deal. Who was this kid? The gang's feelings looked decidedly mixed. I need people to bring a guy down. I'm here to ask for your help. I know I have no right to ask you this, but please, I really need your help. As Minorikawa listened to the young man's conversation, the guitar solos started and all the music got going. Manic Pixie Dream Lurker. Hey, thank you for the 428 cheer. 30 minutes left. Tick-tock, better rush. He could feel his blood start pumping. It sounded like they were talking about a terrorist plot in which Shibuya had become embroiled. Hey Chiaki, he said quietly. Did you hear that just now? I did. I'm not sure I follow all of it, but it definitely has the whiff of a major scoop. Minorikawa shot her a daring grin. So what's the play here, Chiaki? We interview him, of course. But we only have 30 minutes left, right? So we take 10 minutes for our conversation and use the remaining 20 to write up the piece. I'll help you out. You learned good, kiddo. Minorikawa ruffled Chiaki's hair again. They both blushed profusely, gripped by a surge of excitement. Why are you doing this? I can't make any sense of it whatsoever. Katayama stood, peering at them skeptically. If you write up that piece you just did your interview for, you'll make your deadline. Why go out of your way to trouble yourself further? It's no trouble, Minorikawa said. I'm just doing what a professional does. Disagree. Hard disagree. That's all. Katayama let out a solemn sigh. Good grief. Write up your copy, give it to him, then go check out the other story. Like, come on. He looked at his pocket watch again, then snapped it shut. Well, if you aren't concerned about the time, then do as you like, I suppose. I'll admit, you've made me quite curious to read this magazine you're putting together. Minorikawa and Chiaki rolled their eyes as they turned away. Already they're making their way over to Susumu and his gang. The interviews aren't over until you have what you need. You refuse to let them be over. You spend every last second you have to do the best job you can. That's what being a professional journalist is all about. Minorikawa cracked his knuckles and stepped between the two young men. Sounds like you've got an interesting story. Mind letting me hear it too? And then credits rolled. Or at least we got the good ending. Alright. We got Minorikawa ended. Alright, we need to jump to the time chart. There we go. Jump. You, Achi snarled. In the doorway stood the man with the cane. Detective Tatano? Tatano. Kano and Daisuke spoke simultaneously. Now at last, Achi had a name for the assassin. It was a name he felt he'd heard somewhere before. You son of a bee, Achi roared. What the hell are you doing here? Tatano bowed his head profusely. I'm truly sorry. You're sorry? Sorry don't cut it, man. Not after what you've been trying to do to Hitomi. I don't expect you to forgive me, and I intend to turn myself in to be punished for my crimes. But before I do that, please let me do what I can to help you. I think you've helped enough. Achi grabbed Tatano by the collar and drew back his fist. Kano moved to stop him, but Tatano held up a hand. No. It's alright. Let him do as he pleases. There was no trace of the menacing expression the men had worn in their previous encounters. Achi scowled, but lowered his fist then released his hold on Tatano's collar. Fine. Hitomi's sister needs help, so we do need a driver right now. Make sure those two get to the lab and back safely. That'll make up for that punch I didn't give you just now. Thank you. I'm so sorry. Daisuke stepped forward. No, I'm the one who should be apologizing. I'm the one who got you caught up in this. Daisuke, we really didn't grow up to be very good people, did we? No, guess not. The two men stared bleakly at each other, shoulders slumped. At the end, Tatano said, I guess we were just trying to run away from our pain. Yeah, didn't expect my own son to be the one to teach me that. Achi's turned out to be a fine young man. He is Kotane's boy, after all. Guys, Achi stepped into the middle of their solemn heart-to-heart. You can get all sappy all you want later. Dad, once this is all over, we're gonna go see Susune, okay? Sure. Daisuke nodded heartily. Hold on, Kano spoke up, turning to Stanley. If these two take Maria to the lab, that leaves just us two to apprehend Alfred down at the Scramble. Is that going to be enough? I mean, Alfred's not going to show up without a plan. The more people we have on our side, the better. And I doubt we'll be able to get any help from the police. Good point, Stanley agreed. Hey, Achi said. I'm here too. And I'm going with you. I'll keep Hitomi safe. Oh look, good news, Kano. Now we have 3 people. Stanley let out a sardonic laugh. Kano frowned. Achi, I appreciate the offer, but having 3 people instead of 2 won't make much of a difference. When you're not sure of the enemy's exact plan, you really need strength in numbers. If we could set up a dragnet, like the task force did this morning, that'd be ideal, but... Come on, Detective, Achi said. Don't you have any idea what sort of approach the psycho might take? If I were Alfred, Kano mused, then I suppose my biggest problem would be figuring out how to get away after I'd taken Hitomi's blood. Stanley nodded in agreement. I'm betting he plans to involve the Uwa virus, he said. If, for instance, he tells us he set up a device somewhere to spread the virus throughout Shibuya, that prevents us from taking action against him. Achi swallowed hard. This guy wanted to unleash a killer virus in Shibuya? If he succeeded, then the town Achi had known and loved all his life would become a graveyard. Of course, that's mere conjecture, Stanley murmured. Quite frankly, even I can only guess what he's going to do. His expression was grim. Strength in numbers, huh? Achi said. So you're saying we absolutely need more people, is that it? Essentially, yes, Stanley replied. But not just anyone, mind. If it's not a group that meshes well, it'll hinder more than help. Kano folded his arms across his chest. He looked perplexed. People who mesh well together, huh? Achi had an idea. Well, clearly, we go ask the SOS, so let's do that. You could ask SOS. If there was anything he could do, it was that. It was a selfish request, he knew that. Susumu would probably be furious with him, but Achi would have just have to deal with that. Even if his old pals wouldn't forgive him. If they understood that they'd be helping protect Shibuya, he was sure they'd step up and take action. After all, the whole point of the gang was that it was made up of people who loved their town. Can you give me a half hour? I'm gonna try and see if I can rustle up some people. Kano straightened himself up. You think you can do it? Achi nodded assertively. Just wait here for me, okay? He said to Hitomi. She gave him a worried smile. Alright, I'll be waiting. It'll be okay, Achi did his best to sound reassuring. I promise I'll bring back some help. Yeah, you put on those royal elastic shoes. He knew where he needed to go, the pool hall in Yura Harajuka. That was his old gang's main hangout. Running at top speed, he could probably make it in about 10 minutes. Alright. Rushing out the door with a battle cry, loud enough for Kano and the others to hear from back inside the shop, Achi sped on his way. Cool. Traffic on Dogenzaka was at a near standstill. Had there been some sort of major accident? As Achi ran along the roadside, he heard a middle-aged man screaming angrily. You've got to be kidding me. What do you mean no trains are stopping at Shibuya? The guy was red in the face. Nah, ignore him, keep running. We got things to do. Calm down, old man. Achi ignored him and kept on running. Finally, he arrived at SOS's hideout. 2 young men were standing by the door as lookouts. Achi recognized one of them. It was the kid whose so-called buddies had tried to shake him down earlier that afternoon. They roused themselves as Achi approached. Hey, I need to see Susumu. No can do, he's in the middle of something right now. The lookouts made no move to let him through. Achi felt a surge of resentment towards Susumu. If he'd still been with SOS, he'd never try to post members on guard duty like they were low-ranking Yakuza thugs. We'll ask politely. Angry Optimus, hey, thank you for that Twitch sub. How you doing? Achi pressed again. Please, I need to see him. It's important. Just tell him Achi's here, he'll make an exception. At the mention of his name, the 2 lookouts exchanged glances. Alright, I'll go ask him. One of the lookouts headed inside, leaving Achi alone with the kid he'd helped out earlier. Do they always stick you on guard duty? The boy didn't reply. Back when I ran with SOS, we never needed anyone on lookout. We were just a bunch of guys who loved Shibuya, and who had a fun time hanging out with each other. That's all it was, really. It's not Susumu's fault that SOS changed, the boy said somewhat fearfully. Lately it's Kiryu who's been driving things. Kiryu? Oh yeah, that guy. Achi recalled his earlier run-in with him. The guy was an arrogant bully. Here's a flashback. Kiryu's planning to steal Susumu's throne. Oh, it's not a flashback. I thought we were doing the flashback noise. What for? The boy took a nervous look at the door before hurriedly continuing. He's trying to expand SOS's influence, and he's got a lot of people on his side. Right now, the gang is kind of split into 2 fractions. Susumu's guys and Kiryu's guys. Finally, Achi understood what was going on. The gang members had all been acting so weird because they were caught up in some kind of internal struggle. Kiryu goes around recruiting new followers by force, and if he doesn't like you, he dishes out punishment. This month alone, he sent 8 people to the hospital. SOS is a total mess, man. This plan of mine might not work after all. Achi felt a sinking sense of despair. If SOS was ravaged with infighting, it was doubtful they'd heed the dangerous request he had for them. But even still, I want to be a part of this gang, the boy muttered. Achi peered at him in surprise. Why? They shake you down for dues, stick you on guard duty? That's not a decent way to treat someone. I look up to Susumu. He treats me like he would anyone else, even though I'm way down at the bottom. And it's not just me. Susumu always puts the members of the gang before himself. That's why I want to stick with SOS. Aha. So that's it, huh? Susumu really had been trying his best. And the members of SOS, some of them at least, admired him for it and stuck by him. Thanks, Achi said. The kid gave him a dubious look. Achi didn't know if Susumu would help him or not, but he knew it was still worth putting their disagreements aside in order to ask. The door opened, and the other lookout returned. Susumu says to come on in. Achi nodded and strode inside. Nice. Okay, I think we're doing alright. I mean, this seems okay. Alright, that jump point, I think, is here? Young man, Achi. Alright, we can go on in. The scent of alcohol and cigarettes washed over him. Susumu sat on the sofa at the far end of the bar. It was where Achi used to sit, back in the day. What do you want? Susumu asked immediately. Achi walked up to him and then got down on his hands and knees. Huh? What are you doing down there? The hell is this all about? I need people to bring a guy down. I'm here to ask for your help. The crowd around him flew into an uproar. Peals of mocking laughter rang in Achi's ears. I know I have no right to ask you this, but please, I really need your help. Just some guy, huh? Who? He's an international terrorist trying to get his hands on some wonder drug for a killer virus. If we don't catch him, somebody I know is going to die. And that's not all. He might try to unleash the killer virus here in the city. Susumu burst out laughing. This is some kind of joke. You all right in the head there, Achi? The other gang members followed his lead, unleashing another storm of mockery. My chat stopped scrolling. Luminaire, hey, how you doing? Thank you for that raid. What were you up to? What were you playing? Small favor, no biggie. The other gang members followed. Yeah. Laughter continued for quite some time. This is not how that went in that other timeline. In that other timeline, everyone was great and there was killer music playing by this point. Alright, probably yelling at them to shut up is a bad idea. Ooh, Ocarina of Time. Nice. Ah, yeah, Majora's Mask is one of my favorites. You have a good night. As she said nothing. Yeah, let's go with not saying anything. We will not say things, we will not tell people to shut up. It seems like a better idea. Achi said nothing. He endured the ridicule and simply stared up at Susumu. As patiently as he could, he waited for Susumu to give the proverbial nod. Finally, the laughter subsided, and Susumu crouched down and got in Achi's face. Is that how you go about asking someone a favor? Susumu growled menacingly. If you have a problem with me kowtowing like this, I can apologize some other way all you want. But don't you care that I just told you Shibuya is in danger? Achi's voice was unwavering. But face it, Susumu, isn't Shibuya the reason everyone here hangs out with each other? If you're telling me you don't want to keep our town safe, then I won't ask you guys for anything again. I withdraw my request. The two glared into each other's eyes. Then, before Susumu could reply, an odd man stepped in between them. Sounds like you've got an interesting story, he said. Mind letting me hear it too? You again. Didn't you already get your interview? Susumu rolled his eyes. I think Gravels here might be telling the truth. The newcomer's face was all seriousness. It lines up with the information I have. Hey Gravels, you got a second? My name's not Gravels, Achi growled. It's Achi. I'm Minoru Minorikawa, magazine reporter. And I know a bit about that stuff you were saying now. The killer virus you mentioned is called the UA virus. That wonder drug is an antiviral medication. And the person you know who might die is Maria Osawa. Am I right? Achi was almost too shocked for words. How do you know all that? Minorikawa ignored him and turned to the SOS leader. Susumu, he said. Something really is going down in Shibuya. What are you gonna do about it, boss? Susumu bit his lip. He looked pretty conflicted. Sounds good to me, someone called out. Let's give him a hand. Ashi turned to see where the voice had come from. It was Kiryu. You shut up, Susumu said with a glare. Break out of your rut, old man, Kiryu sneered. Achi here's right. Isn't keeping our beloved Shibuya safe what SOS does? He slipped an arm around Achi's shoulders. Ugh. Go away, dude. You're okay with that, right, Achi? Me going against Susumu's orders to help you out? Kiryu's lips pulled back into broad and suddenly grinned. But first, we have unfinished business, you and I. I mean, I'm willing to lend a hand even though you ditched the gang and all. But first, we've got to settle our score, here and now. You understand, don't you? Yeah, you're right. Kiryu grinned hungrily. It's guillotine time? I don't like the sound of that. A bunch of gang members started up an eager clamor at Kiryu's pronouncement. In a matter of moments, Achi was grabbed from all sides and hoisted up onto a pool table. A dozen young men held down his arms and legs, positioning him so his head jutted out past the table's edge. Okay, not a guillotine, but also not good. Kiryu brought out a steel pipe nearly a meter long. It was caked deliberately with dried blood. Wait, that maybe said liberally. Guillotine, 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 guillotine. Okay. The men of Kiryu's faction pumped their fists in the air, chanting madly. Kiryu licked his lips as if drunk off their cheers. Glancing to one side, Ashi saw Minoru Kawa speaking emphatically to Susumu. Looked like the reporter was trying to talk some sense into the SOS leader. Whoa, that is a face. Man, today is my lucky day. I get to take the head of SOS's original head. Ashi twisted his neck to peer up at him. I'm hoping that Susumu interferes and that this isn't a bad end. Man, what point is there in taking my head right now? Oh my, you don't get it, do you? See, if I send you to the hospital, everyone in Shibuya is going to know my name. And once I've got that big-ass sign over my head, I'll be able to unite this town under my banner in one fell swoop. Kiryu's eyes were crazed and bloodshot. Then that's all the more reason for you to do as I'm asking. If you want to unite Shibuya, you have to protect it first. But if you think you need to take my head to do that, then go right ahead. Even if these guys were all like Kiryu, if this many of them actually showed up at the scramble, they'd be able to do far more than Achi could hope by himself. The ultimate goal was to capture Alphard. Achi didn't care how they made that happen. He was just sorry he wouldn't get to see it through, to protect Hitomi to the very end. Okay, then, Kiryu brayed. The gloves are coming off. Oh, man. I don't want him to say not to hold on. This feels like... Come on, Susumu. Stop him from doing it. Go on, do it. Achi braced himself. Just make sure you keep your promise. Kiryu raised the steel pipe high above his head, and then, before he brought it down, he flicked the tip of his tongue from his mouth like a snake. Dumbass, I didn't promise you nothing. Achi strained in sudden panic, for his limbs were pinned down too forcefully for him to have any hope of avoiding what was to come. Yeah! Alright! Trusted in Susumu. The steel pipe never struck home. Just when it was about to smash into Achi's head, Susumu grabbed hold of it. The hell are you doing? Enough of this crap, Kiryu. Susumu yanked the pipe from Kiryu's grasp and tossed it onto the floor. Kiryu stood frozen in surprise. A fang pulsed angrily in his forehead. You guys too, Susumu added, glaring at the others. Let him go. The toughs holding Achi down cautiously took their hands away. Kiryu let out a red-faced cry of rage. But we got unfinished business! Ignoring him, Susumu helped Achi slide off the table. The thing is, if yeah, it's like one of those those things where it's like, you want to say, no, hold up, wait, make sure thing first. But if you do that, then Susumu doesn't get respect, I feel like, is probably what happens. Every man gets to make one request in his life that cannot be denied. Do you remember saying that? The words stirred up some bitter memories within Achi. Yeah, I remember. But you didn't grant me my request. No, I guess not. That's why I'm going to heed yours. No questions asked. Susumu held out his right hand. Susumu, you are... That'll make me the better man, finally. Achi reached out and clasped Susumu's hand in his. Yeah, Achi said, letting his relief show in his face. You're quite the guy. Susumu cracked a tiny grin. It was the sort of smile Achi had seen all the time back when he'd run with SOS. Suddenly, Susumu staggered and dropped to the floor, falling too fast to even cry out, "No!" Kiryu, you jerk. Kiryu had snatched the steel pipe from the floor, striking Susumu from behind once his back was turned. To hell with this, he howled like a madman. SOS doesn't belong to you guys. Not anymore. I won't allow it. Achi didn't flinch. SOS doesn't belong to anyone, he said. It's not mine, it's not Susumu's, and it isn't yours. We're just a bunch of friends hanging out having a good time. That's the only reason we get together. Nothing more, nothing less. He turned and looked away slowly around the room. Hey, you guys. Do you all get together because someone told you to assemble? Do you get together to follow someone's orders? No, you don't. Of course you don't. The bar fell silent. Achi could see the young men who surrounded him exchanging glances. They could tell that his words rang true. Kiryu saw it too, and it only made him more and more agitated. Shut up! Enough with the warm fuzzies! Abruptly, he charged forward, giving the steel pipe a mighty swing. Achi managed to dodge the attack by a mere hair. If it had connected, the blow might well have knocked his head clean off. He quickly backed away. What's the matter? Kiryu taunted. How come all you do is run? The pipe crashed down into the bar top. Bottles of beer and liquor smashed and scattered. Come on, what's the matter, Achi? Kiryu slammed the weapon into the pool table, sending balls scattering across the floor. Some of them collided with Susumu. Susumu let out a faint groan. Smirking at the sound, Kiryu stalked toward him. Speaking of unfinished business, with a gleaming grin, Kiryu took aim at Susumu's head, lifting the pipe up high. Stop! Before he could think better of it, Achi was rushing for his fallen friend. Glad he's not dead yet. Heh, dumbass. Without missing a beat, Kiryu shifted his weight and swung the steel pipe at Achi's temple. Yeah! Achi responded with a fast high kick with his right leg. The steel pipe connected hard with his shin, but it was Kiryu who was sent reeling off balance. Yeah! I'm glad his Power Ranger senses kicked in. Achi pivoted and put all his might into a straight right to Kiryu's jaw. The blow struck home. Kiryu's head snapped back and he crumpled to the floor. There was a momentary hush of indrawn breath. Then the bar erupted into a wild clamor that practically shook the whole building. All eyes were fixed on Achi, marveling at what they had just seen go down. Heh. Sounds like folks were hoping for a little more of a fight. Susumu got to his feet, his left hand clutching his right shoulder. You alright? Achi asked. Mostly. Guess my shoulder took the brunt of the blow. The gang members from Kiryu's faction rushed to their unconscious leader's side. Achi shot them a steely glare, and they gathered up Kiryu and dragged him out of the bar. I didn't go too far here, did I? Achi asked Susumu. This is gonna cause trouble for you. No, I figured Kiryu would pull something like this eventually. It's just a question of when. Right. I'm sure he's gonna go gather up his own bunch after this. We'll probably wind up butting heads again. Susumu didn't sound especially eager for that fight, but he didn't sound especially afraid of it either. Achi was still worried about a few things, but his friend had clearly grown as a leader. Anyhow, back to that story about how you need some manpower. Will the guys here be enough? There were around 30 gang members still in the bar. Achi looked around, each of them in the eye. Some he knew from back in the day, while others were fresh faces. I was born and raised in this town. I'm fond of the friends I've met here, and this has always been a great place to have a good time. And today, right here in this town, I met someone who's very special to me. And I know this doesn't involve the rest of you, but I'm willing to protect her. Achi knew he wasn't doing a great job of getting to the point, but the members of SOS listened quietly. And so, it's like, he felt like a grade schooler who didn't know the answer to a difficult question. He fussed with his hair and frowned sheepishly. Okay, so I'm not sure how to really put this, but Shibuya is a special town for me because of getting to meet people like that. And maybe... No, I mean it's like that for you guys too. Don't you love Shibuya? So help me help this town. He bowed low and deep. I want to protect this girl who means so much to me, and the city that means so much to me as well. I know my answer. Susumu clapped a hand on Achi's shoulder. Listen up, everyone. SOS's original founder is back in action. He needs our help, and I, for one, am ready to follow him into battle. Susumu's people let out a hearty cheer, as previously heard. Aw, it's all very heartwarming. When Achi marched back into his home, followed by 30 members of his old gang, Hitomi and Kano were obviously overjoyed to see him. Good. Their happiness raised his own spirits unexpectedly high. He felt a palpable sense of accomplishment. All right, Detective, Achi shouted. Let's do this. His resounding cry echoed throughout the workroom, and the gang set out for the scramble. What's the matter, Hitomi asked Achi as they made their way through the busy streets. What's the matter with what? You look pretty pale. She peered good and hard into his face. Do I now? Are you tired or something? I mean, you've kind of been going all out all day long after all. Nah, it's nothing. Achi kept his voice nice and bright. I'm just a little hungry is all. So don't worry about me or Alfred either, okay? I swear I'll keep you safe, Hitomi. All right. Hitomi gave a tiny nod. Just leave it to me. Alfred's got nothing on this guy. He thumped his chest in a display of bravado, but he could feel the sweat beading on his brow. We're gonna hit a keep out soon? Oh, maybe not. Someone get this kid some food. When they reached the scramble, Achi took his place at the location specified by the battle plan Kano had drawn up. Hitomi was only a few meters away. Whatever happened, he was in a good position to shield her from harm. There were 3 minutes left until the appointed rendezvous. Achi wondered what sort of person was going to show up. Still, he knew he couldn't scan the crowd too much. He needed to act as naturally as possible so Alfred wouldn't be suspicious. He risked a glance over at Hitomi. Maybe now wasn't the time for admiring, but he couldn't help but think how cute she looked. In some ways, seeing her there felt similar to when he'd first seen her that morning, in the very same spot. Ah, that's right. This game started in the morning of the same day, and it's been going for 5,000 years. The difference was that, this time, it wasn't just Hitomi's good looks that made him find her so attractive. They might have only spent a few hours together, but in that time he'd learned a lot about her as a person. He knew what was important to her, what her worries were, her wants and desires. And also he'd learned what a kind-hearted person she was, as she recalled what had happened back in the workroom. Even though her own life had been in danger all day, Hitomi had shed tears for his father and his sister. She really understood people's grief and suffering. What do I do if I can't protect someone as good as her? Achi muttered under his breath, clutching his right leg. His shin was throbbing wickedly where the pipe had smashed against it. He'd been okay walking so far, but any intense fighting and the leg might just give out. But he couldn't let himself worry about that now. If it came down to it, he'd be a human shield to protect Hitomi if he had to. Achi looked at his watch. Only 1 minute to go before 7 p.m. He glanced again at Hitomi and saw her eyes widened with surprise. Quickly, he followed her gaze across the plaza. He spotted a tall white man approaching. Ah, there we go. Alright. So... it's around... 5. Oh. Right, we wanted to go into Kano's timeline. Alright, so back in Kano's timeline, man with the cane just showed up. Achi's protests were vehement, but he backed down at last. Tatano would escort Kanon and Maria to the lab. That left 3 to try to apprehend Alphard. Kano, Stanley, and Achi. Having only 3 people was a dicey prospect, though, so Achi took it upon himself to head out and gather some backup. Tatano got the car keys from Daisuke, then helped Kanon pick Maria up off the floor. Kano watched him warily. There was no trace of the blood-curdling expression the older detective had shown when he was holding Maria at gunpoint. His face was that of a man with a responsibility, the Tatano that Kano had always known. "Are you sure you're okay doing this?" Hitomi asked Tano. "You might get infected." "That doesn't matter. Don't worry about me. All I care about now is helping you too if I can." He hesitated, glancing down at the unconscious girl he held. "By the way, have Maria's memories come back?" Hitomi tilted her head. "Her memories?" "I suspect she took a blow to the head when she was abducted. When I ran into her earlier, she didn't even know her own name." "Well, she seemed like the same sister I've always known when she came in here." "Good. Then her memory must have recovered." Kano was shocked to hear that Maria had suffered amnesia, but it explained why she hadn't contacted anyone after she'd been set free. "All right then," Tatano said. "We'll be back." Carrying Maria, he and Kanon headed for the door. "Detective Tatano?" Kano called out, then paused, tongue-tied, when Tatano stopped. There were so many things Kano wanted to say, but he couldn't find the words for any of them. "Once Maria is safe, I'll turn myself in." Tatano kept his back turned. The words were like a dagger in Kano's heart. Once this was all over, Tatano would be no longer a detective, but a criminal. Kano knew there was no alternative, but still the realization hit him hard. "Detective Tatano, Stop your dithering, but never lose sight of what you're supposed to protect. Ever." Kano snapped back to attention at Tatano's words. That was dictum number 1, the advice that had kicked off the whole Dick Diary. I was wondering if we were going to get one of those back. "I'm not the one you should be worrying about right now," Tatano continued. "We need to save Maria Osawa's life, and protect the people of Shibuya." Kano bit his lip. I don't want him to quash his emotions. Can't do it. I know that, but Kano still wanted to express his regret how things had turned out for his idol. "You really are a terrible policeman, you know." Tatano gave him a bare hint of a smile, then headed out of the room. And as Kano watched him go, he realized he really didn't have anything to say. Aww. There were only 30 minutes remaining until the time when Alphard had told them Hitomi should be at the scramble. They needed to get ready for action. Is the surveillance camera system still up? Kano asked. Yes, Daisuke replied. It looks like what happened earlier was just a temporary hacking job. Then will you help us? Daisuke inclined his head. What do you mean? I'd like you to keep your eye on the scramble for us. If anyone suspicious tries to get near Hitomi, let us know. Anyone suspicious? How will I know what's suspicious? Like that organ trafficker who suggested you kidnap Hitomi, Mr. Endo. It's possible that he might be Alphard. Would you be able to recognize his face? Daisuke furrowed his brow deeply as he began entering commands on his keyboard. Yeah, don't think I could ever forget. It's because of him that He left the rest unsaid. A moment later, several of the monitors switched over to the feeds from around the scramble. Alright, Daisuke squinted at the images. I'm not sure how much help I can be, but let me at least try to atone for what I've done. Of course, and thank you. Daisuke's fingers flew over the keyboard, and soon all of the monitors were focused on the scrambles and its surrounding. Then he carefully adjusted the angle and zoom for each of the cameras. Now the whole area was under total surveillance. All they had to do was get their stakeout crew to the scene. Where did Achi go? Kano asked Hitomi. I'm not totally sure, but I think he went to find some of his old friends. Hitomi sounded worried. Friends? Achi used to belong to a gang called SOS. Actually, he told me he was the one who formed the gang in the first place. What? Kano couldn't keep the shock from his voice. Achi was the founder of SOS? How bizarre that the two of them would wind up meeting each other this way. But I guess there was a big falling out between them? So I think he went to try and win them back over. Kano hadn't heard anything good about SOS since Achi had left them. If things had ended on bad terms between him and the gang, getting them to help might well be a lost cause. And even if Achi was able to gather some people up, how much would Kano and the others be able to trust them? It'll be alright, Hitomi said, as if sensing Kano's thoughts. I'm sure Achi will bring back some of his old friends. And when he does bring them, I'm sure he'll choose people we can count on. You really trust him, don't you? Yes, Hitomi said without hesitation. Then a blush came to her cheeks. Alright, then I'll trust him too. It would take about 10 minutes to get from Endo Electronics to the scramble. Kano turned to Stanley. Let's plan to head out by 6:50. Stanley gave no reply. He had withdrawn to the edge of the room, where he stood lost in thought, his expression uneasy. Kano decided to leave him alone for a bit. Taking a sheet of paper from one of the desks, he began drafting a plan for positioning Achi's reinforcements around the scramble. Alright, there we go. In about 5 minutes, he'd drawn up a little map of the optimal places to deploy the team. It included positions for as many as 20 people Achi might bring back. Kano. Kano turned around, surprised to find Stanley right behind him all of a sudden. The American looked haggard. Is something the matter? Kano asked. You need to go to the scramble without me. What? Where's this coming from all of a sudden? Please don't ask me to explain. Something else has come up and I have to see to it. Sweat beaded on Stanley's brow. Whatever had happened, Kano had no doubt it was something major, and almost certainly it had something to do with Alphard. Stanley, Kano said. Please tell me. We're past the point of keeping secrets. They come this far together. Surely it was too late to get all tight-lipped now. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you more. Stanley dropped his eyes. Kano had a vague idea of what Stanley was up to. He probably felt he needed to keep things hidden even from his own allies in order to help keep Alphard in the dark. Or at least that was Kano's guess. Alright, I understand, Kano said with resignation. Do what you have to and come back soon. If this ends up with Stanley working for Alphard, I'm going to be very upset. With an apologetic look on his face, Stanley turned and hurried from the workroom. Kano glanced at his watch. It was coming up on 6:50. Pretty soon they'd have to head for the scramble, but Achi still hadn't returned. We need to head out soon, he said to Hitomi. You said 6:50, she replied. There's still 2 more minutes to go. Kano let out a tiny sigh. He shared Hitomi's fervent hope that the reinforcements would come, but not her confidence. If Achi didn't reappear, Kano would be left to protect Hitomi all by himself, and to try to apprehend Alfred as well. Would he be able to pull it off if it came to that? Nope, we're gonna wait. Now he'd never be able to do it on his own. He decided to wait for Achi, accepting that they'd be late. The clock kept up its steady ticking. With each minuscule movement of the second hand, Kano felt the tightness growing in his chest. A minute passed. 2 minutes. Time was of the essence. They couldn't keep waiting any longer. Hitomi, I don't like having to do this, but can't wait any longer. Seeing the look of determination on Kano's face, she gave a tiny, reluctant nod. Aha. Need to jump back into that timeline. Alright, yeah, read that already. Her shoulders begin to trouble. Hitomi? I'll be alright, I'm just a little nervous, that's all. She had a right to be nervous. Alfred was after the antiviral that she had in her bloodstream. Once he had it, Hitomi would become a liability that he'd want to dispose of. And right now the only person who could keep her safe was Kano. He clenched his jaw tight and tried to look confident. Please just try to relax. I'll protect you with my life if I have to. Protecting Hitomi is my job. Achi, you're back. I said I'd see you through to the very end. Didn't I? Yeah, you did. Hitomi gazed back at Achi with grateful reassurance. Ahem. Kano cleared his throat softly. But Achi and Hitomi continued to stare earnestly at one another. Eventually, the tough-looking young man standing behind Achi spoke up. I've got 30. Will that be enough? Yeah, Kano nodded. That'll be fine. More importantly, have you heard what we'll be doing yet? Catch the bad guy, keep Shibuya safe. Same old thing we always do. The guy flashed a grin. We're the Power Rangers. Wait, no. Right, you got it, Kano said. We'll be counting on you then. With 30-odd people at their disposal, they'd be able to encircle the meeting area no problem. The preparations were all set. It was time to confront Alfred at last. Whoa, this music got real good. Alright, Detective, Achi shouted. Let's do this. Kano gave a firm nod. Nine minutes later, 6:59 p.m., Kano and the others were in the position around the scramble. Each subtle tick of the second hand was like a sharp prod to Kano's nerves. His whole body was stiff with tension. They could not let themselves fail. There was too much at stake. Here, now, hundreds of thousands of lives were on the line. With Shibuya on lockdown, the area around the scramble had been seized by panic, and there had been multiple traffic collisions. The sidewalks were crowded with scared people. Overturned cars and abandoned motorcycles clogged the streets. Amidst the chaos, emergency vehicles sped by at furious speeds, but the fire and emergency personnel and even the police were short-handed, and the whole of Shibuya had begun to look like a war zone. The main roads had been blocked to normal traffic, and trains weren't stopping at the stations. In effect, the city was in a state of complete shutdown. Kano glanced again at his wristwatch. 6:59 p.m. and 10 seconds. 11 seconds. 12 seconds. 13 seconds. 14 seconds. He scarcely remembered to breathe. Hitomi stood in front of the statue of Hachiko. She wasn't carrying an attaché case this time, but the moment was otherwise a strange mirror of the stakeout at 10 o'clock that morning. She looked terrified. Kano couldn't blame her. The criminals weren't after some case full of money this time. This time they were out for blood. Her blood. Kano did a slow scan of the area. Ashi was standing not too far away. His companions were strewn about here and there, carrying on as normal. Here in Shibuya, those guys fit right in with the crowd, and they had the area around Hitomi completely surrounded. Yet again, Kano looked at his watch. 6:59 p.m., 35 seconds, 36 seconds, 37 seconds, 38 seconds, 39 seconds. He forced himself to take several deep breaths. He focused on the sound of his own heartbeat and exhaled until all breath was expelled from his lungs. And then it all started. Oh no. The phone rang. Kano's cell phone rang. I've got him. It was Daisuke, the organ trafficker who devised the kidnapping. It's him. Where is he? Kano asked. Is he close by? I've got him on camera now. He's on the other side of the intersection. Kano looked out across the scramble. There were so many people that it was hard to tell who was or wasn't suspicious. Can you describe him for me? The tall foreign guy. The one wearing glasses. A tall foreigner. Kano's eyes drifted over the crowd. Oh, I knew it! It's the dumb teacher. I wondered why we hadn't seen you in a while. Aha! There he was. And as he got closer, Kano's eyes went wide. This man was someone he'd met before. Gasp. Leland Palmer, the lecturer from the English department at Hitomi and Maria's school. Is he Alphard? Palmer was walking right toward Hitomi. Hitomi didn't seem to have noticed him yet. When Kano glanced back at his wristwatch, it was 7 p.m. on the dot. When Hitomi realized Palmer was approaching her, she was too stunned to react. He walked directly up to her, the corners of his mouth curling up into a smile. Hello, Hitomi, he said in English. How are you doing? Professor Palmer? What are you doing here? Hitomi's voice came out in an anxious squeak. Why, I'm here to take your blood, of course. This time he spoke Japanese, and with an easy fluency totally different from his usual manner of speech. I'm the one who injected you with the Ua virus. I'd been waiting so long for the opportunity to arise, and it's been quite agonizing, you know, spending 6 months and more pretending to be a mild-mannered English lecturer. Professor, you're Alphard, aren't you? Let's get down to business, shall we? Neither of us has much time. Hitomi stiffened. Please tell me the laboratory password. After I have your blood, this will only take a few seconds. I've got a device here that will make the extraction quite simple. No way. The password first. That would violate the terms we already negotiated. Hitomi and Palmer glared at one another. Alright, Hitomi said at last. Why don't you negotiate with Cannon instead? Cannon? Hitomi took her cell phone out and dialed. But the phone rang repeatedly and Cannon did not pick up. What's going on? Hitomi's face went pale. Come on, Cannon. Kano, standing near enough to overhear their conversation, grew increasingly anxious as he watched the pair stare at the phone. What was the right move here? Should he keep waiting? Oh no. Oh, shoot. I'm gonna hope talking to Cannon works. I don't want bad things to be happening to them. He had to hope talking with Cannon would work out. Kano waited for the call to go through. But Cannon never answered. No! Had something happened to her and Tatano? Kano felt his heart pounding. Now then, shall I take what I came here for? Palmer took a step closer to Hitomi. Kano reacted instinctively. Freeze! He drew his gun and trained it on the criminal. Nearby pedestrians scattered in fear. Seizing the moment, Ashi darted to protect Hitomi. We need all the bad ends to unlock the true end. When you say all the bad ends, do you mean from every chapter? Because I haven't gotten all the bad ends in every chapter, I'm pretty sure. Well, Palmer let out a tiny sigh. So, you're breaking the terms we agreed upon then. I don't negotiate with terrorists. Kano inched his way closer, his point of aim never wavering. Hitomi, he shouted. Call Cannon again. Again, Hitomi dialed her cell phone. Palmer opened the attaché case he was carrying. One more move and I shoot, Kano shouted. But the terrorist ignored the warning, producing a set of small glass vessels from within the case. If you want to shoot me, then shoot me, he said. Assuming you don't mind this getting scattered about. Is that? Of course it is. Surely you don't need me to explain. Stanley was right. Alfred had weaponized the virus. Doing his best to conceal his horror, Kano tried to sound defiant. Never ask a person if the weapon they have is real, because that always goes badly. You can't let that loose here. And why is that? Because if you do, you'll be infected too. True, but so will all of the innocent bystanders around us. A thin smile crawled across Palmer's face. Did you come here to carry out a suicide attack, Mr. Alfard? Hardly. I've no desire to die here. All I want is to get a little of this girl's blood and then go quietly on my way. But that all depends on you, doesn't it? His face was overflowing with confidence. Kano couldn't shake the feeling that something was off here. Something about this man's demeanor hinted at something. Well then, what will it be? Palmer continued. Will you condemn the people of Shibuya to death? Cursing inwardly, Kano lowered his gun. Palmer flashed a triumphant grin, then resumed his stroll toward Hitomi. She stood frozen on the spot. Susumu! The shout had come from Achi! Jump point. In an instant, a dozen members of SOS headed toward Palmer from all sides. Tough luck, pal, Susumu said. Turns out we're not actually innocent bystanders. Now it was his turn to grin. You're completely surrounded. Give up and tell us the password now. And just for the record, we ain't scared of no virus. The toughest looking young men radiated bravado. Without hesitation, they closed in around the kidnapper. Surrounded? You certainly don't look like the police. Palmer cast a bemused glance around himself. Right about that, Ashi said. I mean, just take a look. I gathered up a bunch of people who love Shibuya more than their own lives in order to take your ass down. He kept Hitomi shielded behind him while he spoke. There's no escape, he declared. You've lost. Lost? Me? Well, it sure doesn't look like you're gonna get away. Palmer grimaced at Achi's words. I see. Then it appears our negotiations are at a close. Enough of the high and mighty act. Susumu stomped aggressively toward Palmer. Hey, Kano snapped. Easy now. They couldn't risk a scuffle sending the virus crashing to the ground. What a shame. Palmer swung his right arm up high. Well, that's cool. Everyone watched in dismay as his hand shot up. The vials he'd been holding sailed upward against the backdrop of the evening sky. Look out, Achi shouted. Catch 'em! Catch 'em all! I don't think that's supposed to make an explosion happen. Oh, that's definitely a bad end. Tremendous blast blew Kano off of his feet. As he crashed to the pavement, searing pain shot through his entire body. He knew at once that the bomb had gone off. But why? That's a good question. It didn't make any sense. Alfred had no intention of carrying out a suicidal terror attack. Kano was certain of that. If that had been his intent, he could have just done so at any time without going through the trouble of putting on this whole charade. Was there some reason that this guy would blow himself up under these circumstances at this specific moment? As he lay dying, Kano had a thought. Could it be? Had Stanley not... Wait, what? Stanley? Not come to the scramble because he knew it was going to happen? I'm sorry, what? Oh, we're definitely hopping over to Achi's side of things. Suddenly, sixth protagonist. Mysterious explosion. Alright. 8, 5. So, here. There's also another character we need to unlock. Oh, this game gets better and better all the time. Jump. Space jump. Was this guy Alphard? The main man. The man arrived in front of Hitomi and began speaking to her. Hitomi, Maria, even Achi's father. This must be the guy who was responsible for everything. Achi felt a pressing urge to flatten him right there, then and there. Still, he knew he couldn't blow his cover until Kano gave the signal. Suppressing his raw emotions, he readied himself for action. No, we need to catch this guy, so let's go with that. I have to set aside my hatred. I just need to focus on catching this guy. Why hasn't it happened yet? Why hasn't Kano given the signal? Freeze! Suddenly Kano rushed forward, his gun drawn. Ignoring the pain in his leg, Achi dashed for Hitomi as fast as he could. He cut in between Kano and Alfred quickly, pulling Hitomi out of danger. Hitomi, Kano shouted, "Call Cannon again." Shielded by Achi now, she brought up her cell phone and dialed the number. But some time passed and there was no answer. Had there been some kind of trouble on Cannon's end? Looking increasingly worried, Hitomi tried calling several more times. Alfred withdrew some strange files. Kano's face wavered. This is clearly the terrorist trump card. Kano and Alfred were having some sort of debate. Achi couldn't hear the specifics, but tensions were clearly running high. There's a jump for Kano. Kano hesitantly lowered his gun. Alfred flashed a haughty, confident grin. Looks like it's time for a trump card. Susumu, Achi shouted at the top of his lungs. Signal the gang emerged from the crowd, moved en masse to hem Alfred in. Surrounded? Now the terrorist was visibly at a loss. You certainly don't look like police. You're right. I mean, just take a look. We're all the people who love Shibuya more than their own lives in order to take you down. As he spoke, he made sure to keep Hitomi shielded behind him. The pain in his leg was getting worse and worse, but he tried his utmost not to let it show. There's no escape, he declared. You've lost. Lost? Me? Well, it sure doesn't look like you're gonna get away. Alfred grimaced at Achi's words. I see. Then it appears our negotiations are at a close. Why did he still seem so confident? Something definitely didn't feel right. Maybe he doesn't care if he survives. He really doesn't care if he survives. Oh no, he was going to unleash the virus, accepting that it would kill him too. Alfred met Achi's eyes, and seeing the haunted realization there, the terrorist flashed a wicked and triumphant grin. Enough of the high and mighty axe, Susumu shouted. He began to stump toward Alfred, but he didn't reach him in time. Yep. Threw them up. Everyone's got to catch them. There's an explosion. Out of nowhere, a huge explosion blew Achi clean off his feet. His eardrums ruptured, and his world was engulfed in an eerie silence as if time had stopped. As he lay crumpled on the pavement, the one thing that still rang in his ears, was the tinkling of glass as countless vials smashed on the concrete. Alright. I like that it's the same picture. Okay, so I can't jump to Stanley here. I guess I need to change a decision somewhere. Probably within here. Maybe within Kano. Something about the circumstances. Well, let's start here. I understand. Do what you have to do. Come back soon. Sorry. Wish I could tell you more. It's alright. I'll find a way to get by. Kano had a vague idea what Stanley was up to. Maybe. This was no ordinary opponent they were up against. Keeping secrets even among friends wasn't necessarily a bad call. Kano, promise me one thing. What's that? Once this is all over, you'll go have a beer with me. Sure. Alright. Kano couldn't help but smile. That's a promise now, remember. Promise! The promise these two made just now mirrors another one made by a certain pair of brothers in the past. Once this is all tidied up, I'm going to need a drink. Let's you and me have a beer together. That was what the younger brother said, and the older brother still feels the pain of that promise going unfulfilled. Interesting. And with that, Stanley hurried out of the workroom. Can I use that jump now? No, can't. Okay. Yeah, I don't think that's wrong. Alright, maybe we'll try one of these. I might have to unlock the other character first. What happens if I rush into action? At this point, they couldn't count on Cannon anymore. Cannon rushed into action. He pulls out the gun. Nearby pedestrians scattered in fear. Yeah, nope. That doesn't really change anything. Alright. Might have to unlock the other character first. I do it through Kano's timeline? I was thinking it was probably through this decision, but... Where is story? Yeah, tell me who it is. Or at least what decision point I need to hit. Tatano, huh? It's Tatano. That's probably... yeah, way back here. Nah, I didn't want him to have to quash his emotions. Yes, you're right. Kano did his best to quash his emotions. Then we're good. Tateno gave him a slight nod, then headed out the door. Oh yeah, I guess we would need, we'd need to be able to see what was going on with Cannon. That makes sense. Detective Tateno, just before the older man disappeared. Let's start a silent salute. It was a breach of protocol to salute while in plainclothes and without his cap. Still, it was the best way he had to let Tateno know how he felt. I'll leave the rest to you. There we go. Tateno took one last look over his shoulder before finally leaving the workroom. Even after Tateno disappeared from view, Kano remained for a long time at attention, his fingertips pressed to his temple. He squeezed his eyes shut, but still the tears he'd been holding back poured down his cheeks. Aww. Cool. Let's just slip back to here. Let's just time slip. God, this game's so cool. Love it. Kyozo Tateno gingerly flexed his right elbow. It was still a little sore, but it shouldn't interfere with his ability to drive. Does that hurt? Asked the girl called Cannon. No, I'm all right. Good thing I didn't kill you, she said, her tone matter of fact. You had to thank that younger detective. If you hadn't stopped me, you wouldn't be here right now. Is that right? Tateno looked over at Kano. He was talking to Achi and the others about something. The last time Tateno had seen Achi had been back at Kotene's wake. He felt a strong surge of emotion, seeing how the boy had grown into a fine young man. Are you sure you don't mind driving? Cannon's voice snapped Tateno back into the moment. Yes, it won't be a problem. Back when she'd attacked him on that rooftop, she'd moved too quickly for him even to get a glimpse of her face. Now that he was able to get a good look at her, he was shocked by how young she looked. And yet there was a cold gleam in her eyes, a glitter of awareness that no trace of emotion behind it whatsoever. In his long career as a detective, Tateno had seen eyes like that before. It was a look he knew well. The look of someone who had killed, and had done so many times. I'm so sorry about all of this. Please look after my sister, Hitomi said. She bowed deeply. No, I'm the one who should apologize. Tateno would have liked to go on to say that helping now was the least he could do, to atone for what he'd done earlier, but he stopped himself there. Nothing he could say to Hitomi Osawa could possibly earn her forgiveness. Silently, Tateno lowered his head. His subsequent actions would have to make up for his crimes. He had to hope that this was possible. Cannon, you look after my sister too. Hitomi bowed once more. You two know each other? Tateno looked at the two girls in surprise. Cannon is my sister's friend, Hitomi said. I just met her for the first time today. What strange series of events could have transpired for Maria and Cannon to wind up as friends? Tateno felt a prickle of curiosity, but now was not the time for that conversation. Daisuke reappeared. He had gone to fetch his car keys. You know where it's parked, yeah? He asked. Same as back in the day? That's right. Over where we always hung out with Kotane back in grade school. All at once, Tateno was hit with a surge of childhood memories. Flashback time! The sky was a piercing blue. The droning of cicadas echoed in his ears. A refreshing breeze brought intermittent respite from the heat. During the summer vacation, they spent their days here in the parking lot behind Daisuke's house. As Tateno and Daisuke played near the stairs, at the side of the lot, the blazing sun beating down on them, Kotane would always come along with some iced barley tea for them. The two boys would race to see who could drink theirs up the fastest. The cold and fragrant tea flowed down their welcoming throats. Most of the time, it was Tatano who would finish first. Daisuke often wound up choking and spitting his out. Kotane would flash him a motherly and sympathetic smile. Then Daisuke would grin back at her sheepishly and fuss with his hair. That had all been nearly 40 years ago, but Tatano could envision their smiles as vividly now as ever. They were his only fond memories of his childhood. Aww. Tatano took the keys from Daisuke, clutching them firmly in his fist. Alright, he said. We'll be back. He lifted up Maria, and with Kanon supporting her on the other side, began to head for the door. Then Kano called out to him. Detective Tatano? Aye. There was a look of sadness on the younger man's face. Don't let yourself become a detective like me. Tatano had words right on the tip of his tongue, but he swallowed them back down. It suddenly seemed petty to trivialize the aspirations Kano had held for so long. Once Maria is a safe, I'll turn myself in. After he made sure that Maria got to the laboratory, he would cease to be a detective. Instead, would simply be a criminal. Criminal. In Japan, a charge of plotting to commit the crime of murder carries a prison term with labor of not more than 2 years. But despite the failures that he'd brought him to this position, nothing he had said up until now had been a lie. Of that much he could be proud. Never lose sight of what you're supposed to protect. Ever. He could at least try to be the detective Kano had so admired until the very end. Aw. Friendship. As Tatano left the room, Kano saluted him crisply. Ordinarily, a detective wouldn't salute in plainclothes, or without his cap. The little breach of etiquette just showed all the more clearly how Kano felt. If Tatano hadn't been holding Maria up, he would have returned the gesture. Leaving Endo Electronics, Tatano and Kanon carried Maria up a hectic Dokenzaka. The parking lot was less than a minute away by foot. Before long, however, they found their way blocked by a veritable wall of people. It was a riot squad with Kuze at the head. Fun fact, Riot Squad. A police squad that carries out security and control activities in order to maintain or restore public order in the event of an emergency. The Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department has 9 riot police units, along with a support vehicle unit for a total of 10 such squads. These also comprise teams that carry out certain specific functions, such as the Explosive Ordnance Division and the Chemical Defense Unit. Director Kuze? Tatano, what are you planning on doing with that girl? What are you planning on doing with her? I already informed Kano that she's to be put under quarantine. If she's allowed to remain free, all of Shibuya will be in danger. Kanon took a step forward. Tatano could sense that she was about to move in for the kill. Easy now, he said softly. Wait. As skilled as Kanon was, she was no match for an entire armed police squad. I'm not going to take all of them on, she murmured. I'm just going to take the man in charge hostage. Tatano swallowed. Capture Kuze and then run off. It could work. Considering the time limit they were facing, he knew that they had to find some way to force their way through here. Still, given how far they still had to go to reach the laboratory, he wanted to avoid direct conflict as much as possible. Give me 1 minute. No, just 30 seconds. Tatano turned and stared at Kuze. The two had known each other since their rookie days. Director Kuze, tell me, what is it that you believe in? What do I believe in? Yes. Weren't you always the one who said that you needed to put faith in your subordinates no matter what? Well, yes. Yes, that's right. Kuze's eyes wavered ever so slightly. In that case, put your faith in me. No, put your faith in Kano. In Kano? He believes that saving Maria Osawa will let us save Shibuya. He's doing everything he can to make that happen. Kuze's lips curled into a wry grin. That sounds like Kano, all right. Always thinking in such simple terms. Usually the simple answer is the right one, sir. People like you and me overthink things. We make them more complicated than they need to be. Just consider for a moment. Will putting Maria Osawa under quarantine clear up this case? No, it won't. So long as we don't know how she was infected with that virus, we can't rule out the possibility that other people have been infected as well. Tateno kept his eyes locked on Kuze's. Director Kuze, right now what we need to do more than anything is get our hands on that antiviral drug. We need to be helping Kano. Please, sir. Kuze furrowed his brow in thought for a few moments, then shook his head. Tateno, buddy, come on. I can't do that. You gotta understand the position I'm in. The director's voice squeaked into his childish register. Cannon narrowed her eyes. What's this guy's deal? She whispered. Well, it's hard to explain. But when his voice gets like that, it means... He was being completely serious? It was like a flustered thing. Let's see if we can make a run for it. He was confused. Now was their chance to make a run for it. Tateno signaled with his eyes to Cannon, then got ready to sprint past Kuze and his team. He didn't get the chance to go. The giant ugh was really funny. Suddenly Kuze let out a pained yelp. Then as Tateno watched in surprise, he proceeded to collapse onto the pavement. Yarg! It hurts! It hurts! Have I been infected with the virus too? The riot squad immediately rushed to the director's side. Is he faking it? Yeah, I think he's doing this to help him. Yeah, there we go. As Tateno stood there, dumbstruck, Kuze secretly flashed him a knowing wink. That was a terrible performance, Cannon muttered. Yeah, but it was a tour de force as far as I'm concerned. Inwardly, Tateno gave his boss a nod of respect. Slipping past the riot squad, he and Cannon headed for the parking lot. Several members of Kuze's team hurried to chase after them. Don't follow them, Kuze cried out as he wreathed on the ground. Everyone stay back. You get too close to Maria Osawa, you'll be infected as well. The riot squad stopped in their tracks. Tateno and Cannon took the opportunity to hurry out of sight. Darting through some narrow alleyways, they arrived at the parking lot. The area had changed since Tateno's youth, but some of the old air of the nostalgia still lingered. There it is. He spotted the minivan with Endo Electronics written on the side. Tateno gently laid Maria on the back seat, even though that sound effect suggested otherwise. She was still apparently unconscious. Once Cannon had climbed into the passenger seat, Tateno hit the gas and sped off. How far is it to the lab? Cannon asked. Normally it would take about 15 minutes, but with this traffic it's hard to say. Tateno avoided the stop and go of Daganzaka, taking side streets as he headed toward Shibuya Station. Once they had re-emerged on the main thoroughfare, however, he spotted a checkpoint set up ahead. Barricades and armored vehicles were blocking the road. The scale of the security effort showed just how grave the situation truly was. Tateno hit the brakes. What do we do? Cannon spoke without taking her eyes off the barricade ahead. Tateno thought for a few moments before arriving at an answer. Probably can't talk our way through. Find another way around, maybe? Get in the back seat, Tateno told Cannon. Why? I want you to hold on to Maria so she doesn't fall. A feisty grin came to Cannon's face. You got it. Tateno waited until Cannon made her way into the back, and then he threw the minivan into reverse and jammed his foot on the gas. He cut the steering wheel sharply to one side, loud screeching filling the air as centrifugal vehicle tilts. Then a patrol car came roaring out of a nearby side road. What the? Tateno reflexively jammed on the brakes. A police cruiser cut in front of the minivan. Turning, oh right, the minivan with the theater troupe. Turning to head right toward the roadblock. Crashing into the barricade, it plowed on through, not stopping until it slewed up on the curb beyond. car's impact had made enough space for another vehicle to slip through in its wake. The minivan barreled on through the checkpoint. Tatano wondered who in the world had been driving the cruiser. Tatano's phone rang and he picked up as he sped onward. "Were you able to break through safely?" It was the voice of Detective Kajiwara. Tatano had thought he was at the Osawa residence. "That patrol car just now, was that you?" A call came in from the task force HQ, saying that Kano had found Maria. I figured maybe Kano was planning to take her to Okoshi Pharmaceutical. And so I thought he'd need to make his way through one of the checkpoints here. But the fact that it was you, Detective Tatano, now that was quite unexpected. Oh, I like Kajiwara. He let out a weak chuckle. "Kajiwara, are you hurt?" "No, don't worry about me. Just please help Maria. I've got a whole pocket full of bananas. I'll be fine." I made a promise to her father that I'd save his daughter no matter what. Tatano could hear the energy draining from Kajiwara's voice. "Understood. I'll keep that promise for you then." "Thank you." The line went dead. He crashed headlong through that barricade. There was no way he'd come out of that uninjured. "I'm sorry, Kajiwara," Tatano said to himself under his breath. "Thank you." He bit his lip, then stepped hard on the gas pedal. Keep out. I like this game a lot. What is with this game and plot-relevant minivans? Yeah, there's quite a few, aren't there? Okay. What jump do I have? Is this? Nope, not that one. That's Achi. So many places to jump around to. Okay. Come on. There it is. I love that other characters have their storylines finished and new characters are like, yes, now we're very important. It was 6 o'clock p.m. Alfred had contacted the Motley team at Endo Electronics, and the situation had immediately deteriorated. But the new developments had also provided them with one big chance. The chance that Alfred might appear in person at long last. "You did fine." Jack Stanley set his hand on Kano's shoulder. A weak smile came to the detective's face. Stanley paused, unexpectedly moved. For that one moment, he saw in Kano the image of his younger brother, Frank. "Jack, you have to get everyone to a safe place right away." Frank's nervous shouts echoed through the hotel lobby. Stanley's younger brother was a member of the Bomb and Arson Squad, a subsection of the Chicago Police Department's Bureau of Investigation Services that handles investigation of bomb and arson-related cases. This was 2 years ago. The CIA had obtained intel that Alfred was targeting a high-class hotel in Chicago for a terror attack. Stanley and his team had searched the hotel interior and had discovered the bomb set inside a large planter. When Frank arrived at the scene and saw the explosive, his expression grew grim. "The detonation trigger is set in the worst possible place. It's going to be a bastard to remove it." "In that case, you need to get out of here too, Frank," Stanley said. "No, I need to make sure I can figure out how this thing is set up so that the disposal unit knows what to do when they get here. I'll be alright. Look, you can probably see it from back there." Stanley could indeed see the small explosive from where he stood. It was held in place by several screws. The timer that just ticked down past the 30-minute mark. There's plenty of time left for the disposal guys to get here. Jack, I need to help finish evacuating the building. There are a lot of people who haven't gotten out yet. But, Stanley hesitated. From a cold and logical perspective, Frank was right. He had a job to do. If Stanley listened to his personal feelings and tried to usher his brother out of here, a lot of innocent people might die. All right, he said. I understand. Heck, if we had something as simple as some dry ice, we could just freeze this thing. Frank grimaced as he eyed the bomb. Dry ice, huh? I don't suppose ice cream would do the trick. That'd be a waste of ice cream. You'd be better off just eating it. Of course, even dry ice would be a long shot in place of actual liquid nitrogen. The brothers looked at one another, and for a moment the tension dissolved into laughter. All right, Stanley said. I'll be back. Hey, Jack. Once this is all tidied up, I'm gonna need a drink. Let's you and me have a beer together. Sure. You got it. Stanley headed for the hotel lobby, which was still overflowing with guests. Since Kajiwara is 60% banana, he isn't dead, he's just a little bruised. Oh, that's good. You made the right choice here. Stanley gave Kano a thump on the back, and the detective cracked a tiny grin. What about my choices, though? Debating his own next move, Stanley stepped away from the others and took out his cell phone. He made a call to his superior, Gordon. It's me, he said. What's the situation? I hear the Japanese police want to put Maria Osawa under quarantine. I'm assuming that's on your orders, sir? It is. There are too many important people in Shibuya. We can't allow that virus to get loose. Besides, we now know that Alfred is after Hitomi Osawa. There's no reason to leave Maria at large any longer. If you put Maria Osawa under quarantine, she is going to die. I know that. But there will be far fewer victims as a result. Gordon's words made something inside Stanley snap. In that moment, he lost any inclination to report that he was with Maria. Failure to do so would be dereliction of duty on his part. He knew that well enough. He knew it, but the fact couldn't overcome his revulsion at Gordon's callous attitude toward Maria. Victims are still victims, he said. What was that? Nothing, sir. I'll continue my operation to apprehend Alfred. Stanley hung up the phone. He didn't care if his superiors took action against him once this was all over. They intended to sacrifice one person in order to save the lives of countless more. From a purely objective standpoint, it was the right call. But what if that person was a loved one? What would they have done then? The dilemma gnawed at the back of Stanley's mind. He couldn't shake the feeling that it was wrong to just accept the lesser of two evils, to sacrifice an innocent for the greater good. No, damn it. He would save that one life and then save the lives of the many. He needed to find a way to avoid the so-called easy way out, no matter what it took. Ah, the trolley problem. He wasn't about to add a second big regret to his life. Not this time. Saving Maria was the right thing to do. His judgment wasn't wrong of that. He was sure. He reaffirmed that to himself inwardly over and over. Kano was watching Tatano prepare to depart. The group had put together a reasonable plan of action. Tatano and Kanan would head to the lab with Maria and attempt to get the antiviral for her. Stanley would accompany Kano and the others to the scramble to apprehend Alfred. It was a two-pronged plan of attack. Still, could they really count on things going as smoothly as Kanan had suggested? Stanley thought back on her earlier words. Once Alfred has made contact with Hitomi, call my cell phone. I have plenty of information Alfred might want to bargain for. I can negotiate with him directly. That meant that getting the password hinged on whatever deal they struck. What sort of things might Alfred request in exchange? Stanley cast a thoughtful look at Kanan. She was helping Tatano to carry Maria out of the room. Stanley doubted she'd answer if he asked her what her bargaining chips were. He held his tongue, watching as she left with the others. Whatever else happened, he needed to focus on capturing Alfred. Hey, Dracus. He glanced at the monitor displays in the workroom. The disembodied sound of Alfred's voice from earlier crept back into his mind. I will appear at the rendezvous in person. After all, it wouldn't do for the star of the show to miss the final curtain. Those words notwithstanding, it seemed absurd that Alfred would actually show up in the flesh. Nationality, age, sex, so much about the terrorist mastermind was shrouded in mystery. Why would someone who had hidden so well for so long ever reveal their true identity? And yet, Alfred had gone out of the way to claim that was precisely what was about to happen. It almost seemed like he'd made turning up in person a major selling point of the deal. I'm looking forward to meeting all of you then. There was no doubt about it. Alfred wanted them to expect him on site and in person. So why would that be? He was using himself as bait to lure me and Cannon out. This is a near-perfect opportunity to wipe out the two people who are gunning for him the most. That being the case, how might he attempt to kill me once I'm at the scramble? Stanley felt a sudden flash of insight. No, something was off here. His thought process was running well, each deduction logically following from the last. But at a time like this, that could be a very dangerous thing. Alfred may well have anticipated where his logic would lead. Stanley needed to assume that any clue he thought he'd found was something Alfred had left behind on purpose. So maybe the suggestion that their target would come to the scene was a different kind of trap. At the risk of sending himself in circles, Stanley decided to rethink the whole case from the ground up. What was the single strangest part of this whole thing? Aha, there we go. Why had Alfred put an amateur like Daisuke Endo in charge of the kidnapping? Sure, being able to get a heart for his daughter gave Daisuke a strong incentive, but there still had to be a reason why he'd been chosen. If the kidnapping had failed, what would have happened then? Of course, this was Alfred they were dealing with. Maybe the possibility of failure was somehow part of the plan. Hell, Daisuke had managed to accidentally kidnap Maria instead of Hitomi, hadn't he? If Alfred had gone with a professional, that sort of mix-up would never have happened. And yet, even if that degree of uncertainty was acceptable, or even desirable, using Daisuke seemed like far too big a risk. There must be some other motive for bringing in Daisuke into the plan. Of course, advantage. Using Daisuke must have provided some important advantage that outweighed his flaws. It was the only thing that made sense, which meant the reason Alfred had Daisuke carry out the kidnapping was... to carry out some other objective? He'd set up the kidnapping, devised the ransom relay, and kept the full attention of the police on that. All the while, Alfred himself was working towards his true goal, getting Hitomi's blood, which meant that Daisuke kidnapping Maria by mistake had in fact been a misstep. That was why in the end Alfred had proposed trading the password for Hitomi's blood. Could that really be it? Stanley decided to take it up with the man himself. Mr. Endo, let me ask you something. Did you know Hitomi had a twin sister before the kidnapping? I didn't, no. So when did you find out? After I'd had Maria kidnapped. The organ trafficker took one look at her and said I had the wrong girl, said I was supposed to have abducted the younger one. He never mentioned Hitomi having a twin before this all started? No. If I'd known, I'd have been a lot more careful. Alfred had certainly known that the Osawa girls were twins, but despite the added risk that fact implied, he hadn't told Daisuke. There was only one logical conclusion. Daisuke's mistake hadn't been an accident. Alfred had intended for the wrong sister to get kidnapped. By using an amateur, Alfred had set up the police to write off Daisuke's kidnapping of the wrong target as a simple misstep. Had Daisuke been brought in simply in the name of camouflage? But why? Alfred was after Hitomi's blood. Daisuke was after Hitomi's heart. They both wanted the same thing, so why target Maria instead? Stanley's train of logic had run out of steam again. Still, he was sure he was on the right track. He just needed to keep following till he found out where that track would lead. Where's the storeroom where you were keeping Maria, he asked. Daisuke hung his head. It's out behind the shop, why do you ask? Would you mind showing me? There's something I'd like to check. At this point, he needed to go back over everything, right from the beginning. He followed Daisuke out to the storeroom. Speaking of the storeroom, Daisuke said as they were walking to the back part of the building, There's something I've been wondering about. Just how did Maria manage to escape in the first place? You're certain you locked her in? Stanley asked. Daisuke nodded. At 8 o'clock this morning, the organ trafficker came by to check up on her. I made sure to lock the place back up after he left. I see. That visit must have been when Maria was injected with the UA virus. It makes sense based on our working timeline of when we expect her to go symptomatic. When they got to the storeroom, they spotted the padlock that had been held it shut, lying broken on the ground. Daisuke picked it up, then opened the storeroom door. Ah, look at this mess. It was obvious immediately that merchandise had been stolen. I doubt Maria did this, Daisuke said. Maybe some thieves broke in? He made a quick inspection, assessing what had been taken. Some digital cameras and laptop computers were missing. This looks like the work of some local thugs. This kind of thing has happened to me a few times before. Daisuke let out a sigh of exasperation. Stanley, meanwhile, was carefully looking around inside the storeroom. Where did you have Maria Osawa? He asked. Behind those cardboard boxes. The boxes he indicated were piled high, closing off one corner of the room. If Maria were unconscious behind him, the burglars might well have never noticed her. So Maria was able to escape the storeroom thanks to the burglars breaking the lock, Stanley mused. Just what impact had the stroke of misfortune had on Alfred's plan, he wondered. What had Alfred planned to do with Maria if nobody had broken in? I'm gonna go with C. He's going to release her at some later time. Since he got to the trouble infecting her with the virus, it only made sense, and Stanley could only think of one reason to release an infected Maria. To turn Shibuya into ground zero for a pandemic that would sweep through all of Tokyo. A virus with a mortality rate of 100% would have spread throughout the region before anyone even realized it. It would be impossible even to calculate the scope of such a disaster. First, it would run the circuit around the Yamanote line, and then, if any of the infected happened to head to the airports at either Haneda or Narita, the virus would spread throughout Japan and the rest of the world in a matter of hours. But that hadn't come to pass. They'd managed to secure Maria before she could develop symptoms and became infectious. Is that because we were better than Alfred? No, that can't be it. Alfred wasn't the sort to commit such indiscriminate acts of terror. The threat of the infection spreading, horrific as it was likely just to hide some other scheme. But then, what was the ultimate goal? Stanley still didn't have enough clues to go on. Stanley made his way behind the stack of cardboard boxes. He spotted something that had fallen on the floor. It was a cell phone. Next to it was a woman's handbag. Stanley unzipped it. It held a jumble of makeup, tissues, and other personal effects, but nothing at all unusual. If he was going to find any clues, it would probably have to be from the cell phone. He tried turning it on. There was no response. It appeared to be broken. Let me see that, Daisuke said from behind him. I'll see if I can fix it. Do you think you can? Stanley asked as he handed it over. I won't know until I try, but that sign out front saying that I run electronics shops isn't just for show. Turning his attention back to the handbag, Stanley searched it more thoroughly and found a photograph tucked inside that he'd overlooked on his first inspection. What the hell? He stared at the image, swallowing the lump in his throat. Keep out. Okay, I think we had another jump for Stanley. I think that was also in Atch's timeline, though. No, it's probably in Kano's. There's Kano. Here? Nope, that's for Achi. It's also for Achi. We cleared the bad end. I mean, we can make the bad end happening. Come on. Outside of Palmer stealing, standing away. Kano made up his mind on the spot. Oh, we changed the thing a bit. You've got to protect the lives of the people. As much as he wanted to apprehend his criminal, he couldn't sacrifice innocent people to do it. Kano caught one of the vials deftly in both hands. Carefully, he examined it for damage. Seeing the vial didn't appear broken, he let out a sigh of relief. Then he looked around for Palmer, but there was no sign of him. Damn it, the mastermind had gotten away. Vanished without a trace. Amidst the frenetic crowd of the scramble, a lone criminal could blend in an instant, becoming just another pedestrian. Trying to find him now would probably be a hopeless endeavor. Failed capture. Alright, let's chase after Palmer and see what happens. He had to chase after Palmer. It didn't matter if he didn't grab the vial. Something about the way this was playing out made Kano sure of it. Calling upon his rugby training, he broke into a sprint. Deftly dodging through the crowd, Kano kept Palmer in sight. He would catch him. One way or another, he was going to bring this bastard down. Steadily, he gained on his quarry. At last, he drew within striking range and immediately dived into an expert tackle. He caught Palmer around the waist. Their bodies collided with violent force. Oof. Palmer went down, flailing, and hit the pavement hard. Even then, he tried to resist, but Kano straddled him and held him down. Tell me the password, Kano snarled. The kidnapper sneered triumphantly. You made the wrong choice. Wrong choice? The ooh is out now. No, now nobody can be saved. You've just killed everyone in the city. No, Kano shot back. Nobody's going to die. And what makes you so sure of that? The way you fled the scene just now. If the virus had really been in those vials, you could never have hoped to escape infection. Running off on foot would be pointless. Palmer said nothing, which means there was no virus in those vials. They were just a decoy in order to buy you time to escape. Now Palmer gritted his teeth and glared up at Kano. The look on his face confirmed the detective's hunch. But more importantly, it was your eyes. You didn't have the eyes of a man who was putting his life on the line. My eyes? Who do you think you are, Sherlock Holmes? I'm surprised they got to use that name properly. I know full well the look in a man's eyes when he's willing to die. I guess they're not actually using the character, so it's probably fine. In the back of his mind, Kano replayed the moment when Tatano, doused in gasoline, had marched into that financial office to talk down a would-be arsonist. Now then, the password. Give it to me now. Kano tightened his grip on Palmer's collar, but the man just gazed back at him with an icy glare. Let me have Hitomi Osawa's blood. That was our original deal. Think Holmes would be public domain by now? I mean, this game was originally done in 2008. Kano wasn't surprised. He'd known it wouldn't be easy to get him to talk. Maybe it really would be impossible to strike a deal without Cannon. But if getting her on the phone wasn't an option, Kano had to figure out something else. Sweat beaded on his brow as he cast about for ideas. Then he happened to catch sight of a car that had been overturned by an accident nearby. Gasoline had spilled from the vehicle, creating a broad, dark puddle on the pavement. Kano took out his handcuffs and cuffed Palmer's arm to his own. "Come with me." Jerking his captive back to his feet, Kano led him over to the car. Then, without hesitation, he sat down in the pool of gasoline. Yanking on the handcuffs, he pulled Palmer down beside him. Kano pulled a lighter from his pocket. Palmer snorted. "And just what's that supposed to be, Tell me the password. Or else what, you'll light the gas? You'll be burned to a crisp yourself." "Yeah, probably." Kano heard the casual desperation in his own voice. "What the hell are you thinking?" The smile vanished from Palmer's face. Kano scowled down him. I think we have to go with A. I just want to know the password." "If that's really what you're after, then you can't kill me." Palmer and Cannon locked eyes, both refusing to back down. The scent of gasoline fumes filled the air around them. Kano knew that the slightest spark could set off a massive fireball. Calmly, he flicked the lighter on. "You can't be serious." Palmer's eyes fixed on the tiny flicker of flame. "The password. You value your life so little? The password." In his mind, Kano could see the pages of the Dick Diary clear as day. Dick Dictum number 1. Never lose sight of what you're supposed to protect. Ever. Palmer glared in defiance. Kano brought the lighter closer and closer to the gasoline. He could practically feel his own life growing shorter as his hand descended, and yet he felt no trace of fear. His body was numb, his senses strangely distant. Time seemed to slow, the world around him dissolved into a blur. He was surprised at how calm, how remote he felt, here in the midst of his life or death confrontation. And then, far in the depths of Palmer's eyes, he saw the barest hint of doubt. He fixed his gaze on that point of weakness and did not look away. Palmer's shoulders slumped, perceptibly. Now Kano was certain of it. This was a man who'd never put his life on the line before. Shizuo's words sounded in the back of his mind. You need a cool mind, but a fiery spirit. A detective without both of those is worth nothing. Let me go. Promise to let me go, and I'll tell you. Is that your answer? I don't think you quite understand the situation here. Kano brought the flame still closer to the gasoline. Palmer's eyes went wide. No longer was he able to hide his trembling uncertainty. All right, I'll tell you. Just put that thing out. The password first. His voice a strangled snarl. Palmer gave him the password. It was avocado. Kano extinguished the lighter. Pulling out his cell phone, Kano dialed up Osawa. As he did, he recalled his last exchange with Stanley at the electronics shop. Oh cool, I can still jump to Stanley, good. Looks like we'll be able to have that beer together after all. But Osawa didn't answer. Kano guessed immediately that something was amiss. Detective. Achi's voice was full of worry. I've got Stanley on the line. He says that Detective Tatano... Kano didn't get to hear the rest of Achi's words. A thunderous blast hurled it to the pavement. Where had the explosion come from? His lighter certainly hadn't set the gasoline ablaze. Kano hadn't been that clumsy. So what had happened? Only one possible answer came to mind. I was waiting for the words bad end to show up there because it's just like, what had happened? Bad end. Balmor had blown himself up. That only confused Kano further. His captive had already given up the password. What would prompt him to set off a bomb at this juncture? Oh, he doesn't have control of the bomb that's on him. As he was losing consciousness, Kano continued to rack his brain. But he found no answers. He probably doesn't even know he has a bomb on him. I could see that. Mysterious explosion number 67. Stanley! Turning his attention back to the handbag, Stanley searched it more thoroughly and found a photograph tucked inside that he'd overlooked in his first inspection. What the hell? He stared at the picture, swallowing the lump in his throat. It was a photo of Maria, standing next to another young girl. There was something written in marker on the back. Ah. Me and Cannon. 7:30. Stanley hurriedly flipped the photo back over and looked at it again. What does this mean? The girl in the photo with Maria looked nothing like the Cannon who had been there at Endo Electronics, who had left with Maria and Tatano just a few minutes ago. But if the girl they were working with wasn't Cannon, then who was she? No. 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 Stanley felt his blood run cold. Could she be... Was she Alphard? Oh, that would be an amazing twist, wouldn't it? The more he thought about it, the more it all added up. Assuming Alfred were masquerading as Cannon, the whole sequence of events suddenly began to make sense. She was strikingly audacious and fiendishly clever, but she hadn't outmaneuvered them just yet. As luck would have it, they still had a chance to stop her, and at long last, Stanley could see the outline of Alfred's plan. Her goal was to get the antiviral, but extracting the DDS from Hitomi's blood was enough. Okoshi Pharmaceuticals still had the drug at their laboratory. The antiviral's value came specifically from having a monopoly on it, which meant that, in addition to obtaining the drug itself, Alfred also needed to destroy Okoshi's research facilities. That was the crux of her plan. The problem was finding a way to infiltrate those facilities. In all likelihood, Alfred's scheme went something like this. Have Maria Osawa kidnapped, then infected with the Uva virus. After that, eliminate Tanaka. Once Osawa learned that Maria had been infected with the virus, he was certain to use the antiviral on her. But he'd need his partner Tanaka in order to access the storage facility, and Tanaka was dead. That was why Alfred had been masquerading as Cannon. Cannon was Maria's friend, and an expert at hacking passwords. If she could secure Osawa's trust, he would let her into the research facility in order to carry out the hack. That's why Alfred, in the disguise of Cannon, had saved Hitomi's life repeatedly. Getting Hitomi to trust her would likewise earn the trust of her father. There were still some finer details that remained a mystery. For instance, how was Alfred going to destroy the lab? Still, Stanley could look into that once he had her in custody. He needed to move quickly and stop her from getting into the Okoshi facility. I fixed it. Daisuke approached Stanley and held out Maria's cell phone. Well, as best as I could at any rate. It looks like it'll get a signal, but whatever data was on it is all gone. I see. Stanley took the phone and put it in his pocket. He'd hoped he might be able to learn something useful from it, but luck evidently wasn't on his side. He was going to have to go up against Alfred with what he already had. Now that he'd guessed what was really going on, Stanley went to talk to Kano. You need to go to the scramble without me, he said. What? Kano was visibly shocked. Where's this coming from all of a sudden? Please don't ask me to explain. Something else had come up, and I have to see to it. Stanley hated having to do this. He wished he could explain everything. But if he made any unusual moves now, there was a risk that Alfred would pick up on it. It was better to keep his companions in the dark just in case. I understand, Kano said. Do what you have to and come back soon. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you more. It's alright. I'll find a way to get by. Kano gave him the thumbs up. The sight brought back some painful memories. I'm actually surprised that the game didn't choose to have a fact for thumbs up. Up until just a few hours ago, Stanley had instinctively seen Kano as all too naive. And now he finally knew why. Kano was just like his younger brother, Frank. They might have looked very different, but in the way they mixed up their responsibilities with their personal feelings, they were totally alike. Stanley couldn't discount that naivety. In the end, it was all part of the human condition. Jack, are you really okay with this? Frank cast an anxious look at the older brother as they made their way onto the University of Chicago. A private university in Chicago, Illinois, lauded as one of the foremost research institutions in the U.S. More than 90 alumni have been awarded the Nobel Prize. The school has made a number of major contributions to the world beyond simple academics, including the construction of the world's first artificial nuclear reactor, Chicago Pile 1, and the Chicago School of Economics, a school of economic thought that stresses monetarism. It's my responsibility to look after you, Stanley told him. As long as you take your studying seriously, I'm all for it. Frank had been worrying about tuition costs as he prepared for college. After losing their parents 5 years earlier, the two had struggled to get by. Yeah, but... Stanley set both hands on his brother's shoulders. Listen to me, Frank. You're my brother and I care about you. I just want to do whatever you do. I just want whatever you do to be something you can be proud of. Alright, Jack, I hear you. And thanks. Kano, promise me one thing. What's that? Once this is all over, you'll go have a beer with me. Sure. Alright. That's a promise now, remember? Kano flashed him a grateful smile. And in that smile, Stanley again saw a little something of Frank. Hurrying out of Endo Electronics, Stanley dialed up Tatano as he ran along. Nice. Listen carefully. Your life may depend on it, he said as soon as Tatano picked up. He knew that the detective wouldn't be able to respond openly since Alfred was right there with him. On the spur of the moment, Stanley devised a simple code for how he should answer yes or no. He told Tatano to respond with, "That's right" to mean yes, and "will do" to mean no. There was no time for anything more complex. Why is the phone still ringing? I thought we were talking to him. Right now, Stanley just needed to stop Alfred from getting into the lab. He quickly explained his suspicions about Cannon. Tatano sounded distinctly unnerved. At any rate, Stanley said, you need to find a way to turn back without her realizing what's going on. Will do, Tatano replied. So he was going to head to the laboratory despite Stanley's instructions. Saving Maria is your top priority, isn't it? That's right. The detective's affirmation was firm. Alright then. Guess I'll have to head that way myself. In the meantime, do not let her inside that lab. That's right. Tatano was no match for Alfred. If she figured out what was going on, she'd probably kill him on the spot. Reassurance or encouragement would be meaningless right now. Instead, Stanley left Tatano with one final warning. Find some way to stall until I get there. If she realizes we're onto her, you're done for. Tatano hung up without saying anything. The area around Dogenzaka was in disarray. The government had declared a state of high alert, and the people on the street were just milling around uneasily, unsure what was going on. A state of high alert? Modern-day Japan lacks both... Sorry, I'm going to turn down the honking horns. Modern-day Japan lacks both the infrastructure and the legal framework to properly deal with a large-scale bioterrorist threat. Coordination between the police, Japan's self-defense force, health centers, and so forth would be a monumental task. In all likelihood, if a bioweapon were ever unleashed there, the target site would fall into chaos. The main roads had been blocked off, and automobiles and motorcycles were at a standstill. Some vehicles had overturned on the curb in an apparent attempt to circumvent the blockade. Any moment now, Kano's team would be putting their plan into action at the scramble. Stanley wasn't sure who they might have gotten to help, but Kano was certain to put them to good use. Please, stay safe. Alright, I can turn back up now that the car honking is done. Don't you dare die on me. Stanley prayed silently as he darted underneath the railway overpass. He made it to his car, still parked on the roadside, and fortunately beyond the blocked-off area. Jumping in, he sped off toward the laboratory. As he drove along, Stanley again tried to deduce Alfred's plan of action. If Alfred himself was on the way to the lab, now, then what was the objective of the fake who'd been sent to the scramble? A call came in from Tatano. Stanley here. He picked up quickly, but as he did, he wondered, why was Tatano calling him? Alfred was right there. There was no way the detective should be risking a phone call. What's going on? Tatano said nothing. Stanley repeated the question. Still, Tatano did not reply. Stanley's apprehension spread like a droplet of ink in water. Whoops. Hey, has something happened? Hey, answer me. The call cut out. Stanley hurriedly dialed Tatano's number, but he couldn't get through. Something had gone badly wrong, he was sure of it. Had he been too arrogant in thinking that he might be a match for Alfred? His worries turned to the team at the scramble. What if they had walked into a trap? Figuring that it would be too dangerous to call Kano in the midst of the negotiations, Stanley instead dialed up Achi. Mr. Stanley? What's going on? To Stanley's relief, it sounded like things down at the scramble had gone well enough, so he asked Achi to put him on the phone with Kano. Yeah, give me a second, the young man said. Detective! Stanley could hear Achi shouting at the other end. Got Stanley on the line. He said that Detective Tatano... Ah, yeah, this is where the explosion happens. There was a sudden tremendous boom, and then the call cut out. Stanley's jaw dropped. He felt his mind emptied out by despair. He opened his mouth, but he couldn't even bring himself to scream. All he could do was curse inwardly again and again. Stanley slammed his fist onto the steering wheel as hard as he could. Then he did it again, and again, and again, and again, and again. He didn't stop even when his fists were marred with blood. Bad end. Call cut short. Number 81. Oh my goodness, there's so many bad endings. Wow, that's quite the jump. Oh, looks like Tatano's not gotta keep out anymore. That seems strange. Okay. Read this. Can I move? Nope. Well, let me move further. Yeah. Nope, Kajiwara's never hurt. He's fine. Yeah, there we go. I wonder if that jump will work now. jump somewhere. Is it this one? There it is. Once they'd made it past Shibuya Station, the roads were relatively clear. They ought to make it to the lab in no time. The phone rang again. It was Stanley. "What's going on?" he asked the American. "Listen carefully. Your life may depend on it. I'm going to ask you some questions. If the answer is yes, say that's right. If it's no, reply with will do." For a moment, Tatsuno was bewildered. From the urgency in Stanley's voice, however, he realized that there was some kind of emergency. "That's right," he said, after a moment's thought. That ought to let Stanley know that he understood the code. "Is Cannon with you right now?" "That's right." "That Cannon is an imposter." Tatsuno gripped his phone more tightly, hoping it would stop the trembling in his hand. "It's her," Stanley said. "She's Alphard." The detective had to stifle a gasp of alarm. "I don't have time to fill you in on the details, but I've got some pretty incontrovertible evidence. You need to turn back now." Tatsuno struggled to come to terms with what he'd just heard. He glanced at Cannon through the rearview mirror. She was holding Maria tightly in her arms. Was this really all an act on her part? And if so, why? There was only one possible reason. If Cannon was really Alfred, then she had only one goal. She was pretending to help Maria in order to get into the lab, where she would be able to steal the antiviral. But wait, hold on. Cannon was Maria's friend, wasn't she? Hitomi had said as much herself. "Cannon is my sister's friend." Maria certainly knew what her own friend looked like, and since it was obvious that Maria might be present, it didn't make sense for a clever imposter to pretend to be Cannon. Or did it? When Cannon showed up on the roof of South Hill, making her surprise attack on Tatsuno, Maria had taken off down the staircase without ever looking back, and when she turned up at Endo Electronics' workroom, Maria had already collapsed and fallen unconscious. Tatsuno felt a chill spreading through his body. As far as he knew, Maria had never actually seen the girl who was now sitting in the back seat. But then, what about Hitomi? Shouldn't she have known what Cannon looked like? Tatsuno tried to remember just what Hitomi had said. "Ah, sister's friend. I just met her for the first time today." If they'd never met each other before today, then maybe Hitomi didn't know what the real Cannon looked like. That was the only explanation that made sense. "Hey, Tatsuno, are you still with me?" Stanley sounded like he was on the verge of panic. "At any rate, you need to find a way to turn back without her realizing what's going on. If Cannon really was Alfred, Tatsuno had to keep heading toward that lab." He went over the coded responses in his head. Yes, was that's right. No was will do. "Will do," he said. "Saving Maria is your top priority, isn't it?" "That's right," Tatsuno confirmed. "Alright then. Guess I'll have to head that way myself. In the meantime, do not let her inside that lab." "That's right." Tatsuno hung up. "Who's that?" Cannon asked. Tatsuno felt his heart skip a beat. "That was Kuze, that cop from earlier. He tried to keep his voice as level as possible. He was worried about us and wanted to check up." "Ah, okay," Cannon muttered, sounding disinterested. Tatsuno could only hope she hadn't guessed the truth. It felt like the specter of death himself was breathing down his neck. At last, the minivan arrived at Okoshi Pharmaceutical. Tatsuno pulled up at the front gate and got out of the vehicle. Off to one side of the entrance was an intercom for contacting the security room. "I'm assuming you've already heard the details from the director," Tatsuno barked into the intercom. "Open up." "We haven't heard anything from the director Osawa," the security guard spat back. "And moreover, the laboratory is currently on lockdown. I'm sorry, but not even Director Osawa is allowed inside." "That's ridiculous." Tatsuno scowled at the intercom in frustration. Then a car came racing toward him along the street. The sound of screeching brakes filled the air as the vehicle skidded to a halt, and then Kenji Osawa jumped out from the driver's seat. "Maria!" Osawa rushed over to Tatsuno, then to Maria where she lay in the minivan. He looked carefully at his daughter's face. "Oh, thank goodness. She still hasn't gone symptomatic." Mr. Osawa, why aren't people being allowed into the laboratory? Osawa tilted his head. They're not? Tatano explained what the guard had said. That's ridiculous. Osawa immediately called the security guard on the intercom. He got the same story. You've got to be kidding me, Osawa raged. I'm the lab director here. But the security guard wasn't hearing it. I'm sorry, sir. These orders come from Mr. Makino. No. So am I just supposed to sit out here and watch my daughter die? Tatano racked his brain for other ideas. Maybe they'd have to climb the gate and break their way in? Then over the intercom, they heard the sound of a phone ringing in the security room. The security guard answered it, without muting the intercom speaker for some reason. His voice was faintly audible. He sounded rather differential. Who in the world would he be talking to? Before Tatano could muse further, the gate suddenly opened. And we got video of it. Huh? Why? Tatano and Osawa looked at one another in surprise. I have a message for Director Osawa from Mr. Makino, the security guard said. For Makino? Osawa huddled over the intercom and had a brief Sota voice exchange with the guard. What was that all about? Tatano asked. It would seem that my wife was able to pull some strings for us. Wife. After Osawa left home, I had a change of heart. Even if it meant losing everything, she decided she wanted to save Maria's life. Although Maria was not Ai's real daughter, it turned out that the time they'd spent living together had sowed the first seeds of a familial bond. Oh, that's nice. Osawa smiled uncomfortably. Tatano didn't have time to wonder what that might mean. Has that lock been opened for us as well? He asked. The smile disappeared from Osawa's face. No, she wasn't able to do anything about the final layer of security. I see. Well, let's regroup inside for now. Very well, Osawa said. By the way, who's going to be hacking the password? I am, Cannon replied. Ah, so you're Cannon. We should get you to the laboratory then. Osawa began to lead the way inside. Cannon followed. If Cannon really was Alphard, Tatano couldn't let her into the lab. But without getting that lock open, there was no way of getting Maria the antiviral she needed to survive. What was the right call? Should he still pretend to be in the dark and let Cannon try to hack the password? No, we can't go anywhere until Stanley gets here. I hope. Maybe. Let's find out. Tatano knew exactly what he needed to do. What's the matter? Osawa turned and cast a look of confusion back at Tatano and Cannon, both of whom had stopped in their tracks. We'll wait out here, Tatano said. But, I mean, isn't Cannon going to hack the password? There's been a slight change of plans. Go ahead and wait for us at the lab director. All right. But we don't have much time before Maria develops symptoms. I'll be inside. Please don't keep me waiting too long. With Maria in his arms and a worried look on his face, Osawa hurried through the gate and disappeared from view. What do you think you're doing? Cannon asked, stiffening as Tatano nudged the barrel of his gun against her spine. You're Alfred, aren't you? No idea what you're talking about. It's no use trying to play dumb. Stanley found proof. Yep. Before he finished speaking, Cannon seemed to disappear from view. She cartwheeled away at blinding speed, too quick for Tatano to keep a beat on her. By the time she'd righted herself, she'd already drawn a gun of her own. Abruptly, he found himself forcing her in a stare-down, weapons aimed at one another. Then Cannon's phone rang, and she reached to answer it. Don't move, Tatano roared. Did you forget the plan? That might be Hitomi calling. I don't care, don't you move. If Cannon really was Alfred, the whole plan might be a sham. Tatano kept the barrel of his gun squarely on its mark. Cannon let out a little sigh. Have you considered that Stanley might be lying to you? Yes, it's possible. But I need to make sure we avoid a worst-case scenario. If you don't let me into the lab, who's going to hack the password? We've got your little decoy. My friends will get the fake Alfred to cough up the password. Once her phone had stopped ringing, Cannon sighed again. What about Stanley, then? Who I can't jump to. Is he on his way here? Who knows, Tatano said. At that, Cannon lowered her gun. She seemed disturbingly full of confidence. Cannon flipped open her cell phone. Who do you think you're calling? Tatano adjusted his aim, pointing his gun at the young woman's head. Look, I'm going to call Hitomi and have her clear up these suspicions you have about me. We don't have time for this right now. Wouldn't you agree? Cannon stared back at Tatano, cell phone in hand, waiting for his reply. Doesn't matter what Hitomi says. I trust my own judgment. Your own judgment, huh? And that is that always correct? Cannon began punching in numbers. She never took her eyes off Tatano as she waited for Hitomi to pick up. She's not answering. Cannon hung up and tried calling again. It's me. It looked like she'd gotten through this time. That detective doesn't trust me. Apparently he thinks I'm Alfred, not Cannon. After a few moments, Cannon held the phone out to Tatano. Here, Hitomi says I'm definitely Cannon. Tatano didn't reach for the phone. Instead, he advanced on Cannon with his gun still on its mark. This is a farce, Tatano spat. Hitomi's words don't mean a thing. You might be Cannon to her, but you aren't to me. I don't even know if there ever was a real person named Cannon in the first place. So maybe you're Cannon, and you're Alfred. Cannon shook her head, then put her phone away. If you're really Alfred, then you don't actually need to hack the password, Tatano said. I'm guessing you've already gotten it from Tanaka, which means you'll be able to get your hands on the antiviral as soon as you get into that lab. Cannon didn't so much as flinch. The only thing stopping you is the antiviral still in Hitomi Osawa's body. Possessing the antiviral and having a monopoly on it are two very different things. You want to eliminate Hitomi. That's why you lured her down to the scramble. Am I wrong? If that's true, then how am I planning on getting rid of her? Using this so-called substitute Alfred or something? Yes, that's right. Tatano couldn't be certain. But he couldn't think of any other way. Cannon let out a laugh. You don't know the first thing about Alfred, she said. Alfred keeps the outlines of his plans blurred so that his deliberate actions just get lumped in with the coincidences. That's the crux of all his plans. That's how he's able to pull off his schemes by himself. He'd never solicit help from a third party. The words seemed like they were Cannon's, but also seemed like they were Alfred's. Whatever the case, Tatano had to let Cannon know what Hitomi was in danger. With his gun still at the ready, he got out his phone and called a detective. Bomb probably went off already. The phone rang several times and nobody answered. Eventually, he had no choice but to hang up. He must have been in the middle of a confrontation on the other end. For now, Tatano could only pray that Kano and the others would be able to handle whatever threat they were up against. I'm not letting you in there. Whoa, creepy. At that, Cannon let out a fake chuckle. In that case, I'm going to have to eliminate you. Even without her gun raised, she still radiated intimidation. Tatano might have had her at gunpoint, but he could feel the threat of her presence like a gathering storm. Eliminate me, he said, doing his best to mask any sign of weakness. You're the one who doesn't have your gun ready. I don't need my gun, Cannon said simply. And why's that? Because you can't shoot me. What's that supposed to mean? Cannon glared sharply at Tatano. Her look pierced him like a blade. Then she quirked an unsettling smile and took a step closer to him. Don't move, he warned. Tatano said. Try anything funny and I'll make sure you regret it. He kept his gun trained on the center of her chest. You can't shoot me. Cannon took another step closer. You're still traumatized from that time you let your friend's wife die. How do you know about that? Tatano was shaking now, his aim wavering. I heard you talking with the younger detective up on that rooftop. That was right. She had been there. Let's test my theory out. Cannon pointed her index finger at her own heart. If you think I'm Alfred, then shoot me right here. Huh? The corner of her mouth twisted up. You can't do it, can you? Tatano's hand shook all the more. You're afraid to pull the trigger. It was as if her words were a spell that she was casting over him. You can hardly even stand the thought of pointing your gun at someone. Kotoni's final moments flashed through Tatano's mind. If he hadn't fired back then, maybe Kotone would still be alive. Your friend's entire life was changed because of you. Why hadn't he tried to talk the culprit down? He knew the reason why. Because he'd love Kotone. He still loved her even after she'd become Daisuke's wife. His desire to be the one who saved her had warped his sense of judgment when things had come down to the wire. Tateno, do you not enjoy being with me? There was a forlorn look on Kotene's face. It wasn't that he didn't enjoy being with her. Her very presence soothed him. But the more serious the relationship had grown, the more it tore at Tateno's heart. The truth was that he didn't really know what happiness was, and so he was incapable of making someone else happy. If it were possible, he'd want Kotene to be smiling always, and that meant her being with someone other than him. I think it would be best if we stopped seeing each other. Tateno blurted out the words bluntly, and Kotene's face fell. He hadn't broken up with her because of any lack of feeling for her. Rather, the impulse had actually sprung out of his pursuit of human warmth, and his growing fear of losing it. He'd just been so uneasy. More than anything, he'd been afraid that he wanted too much love and affection from Kotene. Bit by bit, Tateno lowered his gun, his hand even more unsteady. His heart was on the cusp of breaking, and still Canon continued with her diabolic whispering. You can go ahead and kill me, but if it turns out that I'm not Alfred, what then? Now she stared at Tateno with an almost pitiable look. You'll have once more done something that you can never undo. Something I can never undo. Tateno repeated the words dully, feeling himself forced into a trance. That's right. Could you ever accept that? No, I couldn't. Couldn't make the same mistake. His whole body felt like it might fall apart. He wanted to drop to the ground and curl up in a ball like a child. And that's why you can't shoot anyone. I can't shoot anyone. Wow, you're getting Jedi mind tricked a lot, aren't you? As Tateno muttered the words, Kano's face appeared in the back of his mind. I can. Tears fell from Kano's eyes as he looked down the barrel of his gun at Tateno. He'd become a detective who didn't lose sight of what he was supposed to protect, no matter the situation. Tateno had nearly abandoned his inward promise to be a detective worthy of that final salute Kano had given him. He brought his gun back up to Bear. Don't be absurd, Canon mocked. You can't shoot anyone. Actually, I can. The words creaked dryly from Tateno's throat. When there's something I'm supposed to protect, I can shoot. The memory of Kano weeping but taking aim had given him the resolve he needed to face down an opponent who ought to have terrified him. I learned that from someone who was terrible at his job. Ken's eyes went cold. Immediately she lifted up her gun again. Once more their eyes locked, sparks of hostility cracking between them. But almost immediately Tateno could sense the difference in skill between his opponent and himself. The young woman radiated a deadly aura. Yet the force of her stare was like a knife pressed to his throat. She had borne witness to carnage and bloodshed the likes of which he couldn't even imagine. He couldn't win this. She would kill him, guaranteed. Tateno braced himself for death, never taking his eyes off Kanon's. If nothing else, he needed to buy time for Kano to get that password. But could he do that, given the opponent he faced? Yes. Somehow, he would do it. As a detective. As a man. Even if he had to give his own life to succeed. Even if it couldn't come close to making up for the sins he had committed. I feel like I'm about to get a bad end or a keep out. Ooh, or an actual end. Whew. Ah, it's like 9:15. Alright. I think that's gonna be all the story we can do. for tonight. So we finished Tatano, Maria's done, Sawa's done, Minorikawa's done. Kano, looks like I have to maybe do Kano and Achi. And then Stanley. Okay, so we still have about 3 protagonists right now. Yeah, we're gonna definitely take a break there. We're gonna end the stream here. And we'll see about going through this tomorrow. Alright, let's see. Yeah, so tomorrow's stream will be... Why did I open Slack? I don't need Slack. I need the other thing. Tomorrow's stream, 6 p.m. Pacific time. Just gonna put the Discord and YouTube links in the chat. I wasn't able to get last week's 428 streams up. Mary Cat, thank you for that cheer. But we'll I'll see if I can get them up soon. Maybe not by tomorrow. I've got a lot of work I gotta get done. Oh hey. Adam's playing Hollow Knight right now. Let's go raid Adam. I started playing Hollow Knight again because I'm just too excited for Silk Song. Yeah. There's been a lot of story, and I think I just need to go process a lot of it now. Thank you, chat, for hanging out. It was great. I thought this game's just I think one of the best visual novels I've played. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah, let's go raid Seabats, because he seems to be online, and I will see you all tomorrow. You take care.